Hi. Hi. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me see if I good morning. Good morning. So we have some persons waiting. What are you doing? Okay. Huh? Somebody has their hand up. Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you make me a presenter or some a panelist or something? No, I can't write. Thanks. Good morning. Hi. Hi. Yes. Hi, Miss Melanie. Yes, ma'am. Who is that? Who is that? She needs to she have to register. It's on our website. Send me her email address. Send me her email address in WhatsApp and I can register her and then it will go to her email and she just clicks it to join. Yeah, send me on WhatsApp, please. All right. Hi. Yes. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Sorry for the delayed start. Hi. Welcome. Yes. Hold a second, guys. Yes, as panelists. Yes, guys. Yes, Miss Bellamy. Right. You send me the email. Okay. All right. All right. Hi, sorry about that, guys. Yes, someone has their hands up. Miss Nikisha Mattis, Nata, um, allowed to unmute. Yes, please go ahead. Okay, great. Perfect, perfect. Yeah, you have her email address? You need to send me her email address. Oh, okay, okay. Let me just, I thought it was for the chairman. Right, I'm going to do it now, miss. Just give me a second. Yeah, man. Alright, boom. Okay. I'm doing it now. I'm going to register and then it will come to you, your email. You can just leave. Yes. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yes. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yeah, EU IPO looking perfect over there. Camera is set perfect, guys. Very good. Okay. Yes, so do that one. You carry it? Take it to her again? She's going to her again?
today being World IP Day, we're officially launching World IP Day. So it's my great pleasure to welcome everyone this morning. We're also very, very pleased that we have greetings, pre-recorded greeting from the head of the World Intellectual Property Organization, Mr. Darren Tang. So without further, I'm so sorry, Mr. Ashambo couldn't join us this morning, but without further ado, I'm going to invite you to bring greetings.
Thank you. Good morning, Executive Director, Honorable Minister, Chair, ladies and gentlemen. This year's World Intellectual Property Day has particular meaning for the European Union Intellectual Property Office, EUIPO, since it puts the spotlight on the small and medium-sized enterprises, which are so important to all of us. I will thank the Jamaican Intellectual Property Office for the support you are giving to the CARIFORUM Intellectual Property and Innovation Project, and your active role in both promoting IP and supporting SMEs. Before looking at progress in CARIPI project, I would like to update you on what has been happening with regards to IP rights and SMEs here in the European Union, in the EU. The evolution of the EU trademark, which the EUIPO administers, is a key indicator. And you may be aware that at the beginning of this month, the EUIPO passed the milestones of 25 years since the first EU trademark was granted. Later this year, we expect to have 2 million EU trademarks on the register. In the year to date, demand for EU trademarks for all of the top 10 filing countries, apart from the United Kingdom, is up substantially. And overall, we have received 25% more EU trademark applications compared with the same period in 2020. Now, the fact that Chinese businesses are now the #1 filers for both EU trademarks and designs is certainly one of the stories of this crisis. But this trend predates COVID-19 and is a symptom of the key role that IP rights play in international trade. Indeed, the rise in online trade and the growth of the online platforms has been accelerated by the current crisis. And this means that many more companies, including the smallest ones, are now having to think about protecting their innovation and creativity, not just locally, but also globally. However, even while demand for IP rights is growing rapidly, we know that SMEs who are taking their ideas to market, as this conference's theme suggests, continue to be underrepresented among IP right owners. This needs to be addressed, especially since small companies that do register rights pay higher wages and have better prospects for growth. Today, in the European Union Intellectual Property Network, we have a powerful network representing member state IP offices and users that is helping to deliver a modern, accessible, and transparent IP system for citizens and businesses of all sizes. This year, the network celebrates the 10th anniversary, and we have already seen members going the extra distance by supporting initiatives such as the Ideas Power for Business Corner of the EUIPO website that provides access to pro bono advice and effective dispute resolution for EU SMEs. The target of 500 pro bono providers in the first trial phase has now been reached, and we are now looking at lessons learned and how we can improve this service for the future. In parallel, working with the European Commission and the other member states' IP offices, the EUIPO has been supporting the Ideas Power for Business SME Fund, providing financial assistance to EU SMEs. This fund helps pay for a professional IP audit and supports the registration of national or EU-level trademarks and designs. And in the first 3 months, more than 3,300 SMEs have requested help, covering around 8,000 services. The most important thing is for over 70% of the SMEs who requested access to the fund, this was the very first step towards having a registered right, showing clearly that this outreach to new actors is working. The need to join forces to improve the transparency, user-friendliness, efficiency of our IP system, as well as the protection of IP assets applies equally to Caribbean businesses. And we would like to see CARIPI continue to evolve as a platform for cooperation that can act as a bridge between EU and the CARIFORUM region in order to create an IP landscape that benefits everyone. While the first year of implementation of the CARIPI project were marked by the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, we still managed to reach a significant number of SMEs. We did this via webinars, tailor-made guidebooks, and e-learning materials. In addition, a mentorship program will soon be launched aimed at providing personalized advice to selected Caribbean SMEs on IP networks. The SME priority in this year's World Intellectual Property Day is an important reminder that we can leave no businesses behind. We, therefore, look forward to continue working with you to create an environment in which all our businesses can overcome the current crisis and look forward to the future with confidence. Thank you very much.
No, no, don't start it yet. Hold on. Mrs. Salmon is there. Hi. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hi, are you hearing me? Yes? Okay. No, oh, thank you so much. Technology really is killing me this morning. Okay, no, I thank you so much for that speech. That was really quite informative, and I'm quite excited to hear about your SME fund. The Development Bank of Jamaica has a program where they offer assistance to persons to register their intellectual property. But that SME fund really sounds fantastic, and perhaps, well, I'll speak with Alexander and get more information about that. But thank you so much for sharing. Next up, we're going to have the chairman of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office Advisory Board, Mrs. Debbie Salmon, who is an attorney at law. She recently joined the JIPA advisory body, but has already made quite a significant impact. We have had 2 meetings of our advisory board, and she joined us just before we're into Intellectual Property Week. So we have laid hands on her suddenly, but we're quite happy to have her as our chairman. And she's the first female chairman we have ever had at JIPO. So there are quite a number of firsts for our chairman. So I'm now going to invite Mrs. Debbie Salmon to give her greetings. Mrs. Salmon, over to you.
Okay. I don't know, is everyone hearing me? I realize I'm not controlling my screen, so.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Wow, Miss Bellamy, you just made me realize something. I didn't realize I was the first female to chair the board. So I'm honored. I'm honored. So this morning, I'm not quite sure if all our invited guests are on, but nonetheless, I'm going to recognize in my presentation all those persons that we would have invited to this seminar, all the important people. Not saying that anyone is less important. Everyone who is on here is important, but there are some people that we need to recognize, especially this morning, starting with the Honorable Audley Shaw, CDMP, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Not sure if he's on, but we recognize him nonetheless. The Honorable Norman Dunn, MP, State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Ms. Santia Bennett Templar, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce as well. Ms. Lily Claire Bellamy, Executive Director, Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, JIPO. Mr. Hugh Graham, representing the Leader of the Opposition. Christian Archambault, Executive Director, European Union Intellectual Property Organization, and Darren Tang, Director General of WIPO. I believe he sent his message. Mr. Moderator, Dr. Marcus Goff, and also Deputy Director, Legal Counsel at JIPO. Mr. Oral Shaw, Principal Director, JMEA, Ms. Manes Nakata, is that how the pronunciation? I'm not sure. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. Managing Director, Lakeshore Agro Processor Enterprises in Malawi, and Ms. Rachel Jones, founder, Snapdragon Monitoring Limited, the UK. Members of the JIPO Advisory Board, if you're here, I welcome you all. Members of the MSME sector, creatives, ladies and gentlemen, all who have joined us on this online space, welcome, welcome, welcome. I know it was a long list, but protocols must be followed. Welcome every single person. I'm happy to be here, and I know this is going to be an exciting time for us all. So it's a beautiful Monday morning, and I wish you all a beautiful Monday morning as I begin. And what a stellar way to start a Monday morning off on this platform filled with creatives and creative energy and motivation coming from all corners, all in an anticipatory mood, looking forward to a great week of activities. I take this opportunity to welcome you all again to JIPO Week, and I hope the time spent participating in the daily presentations will be worth your while. As a new chairperson of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Organization Advisory Board, I too am also looking forward to this week of events hosted by JIPO. It's my first time and I'm looking forward to it. And so on behalf of the other members of the JIPO Advisory Board, I join in congratulating the JIPO team on the staging of yet another of its annual Intellectual Property Week celebrations. JIPO has made it its duty every April for a week to lead the creative industry in celebrating this important observance, World Intellectual Property Week. This, of course, is to assist not just stakeholders in the creative industry, but Jamaicans generally, including students at the secondary level, to learn about the role that intellectual property, IP rights have or play in encouraging innovation and creativity. That it is being launched today on World Intellectual Property Day gives it even greater significance. Awareness of how IP rights impact daily life is of utmost importance. Also, contributions made by creators and innovators to the development of societies across the world cannot go and must not go unnoticed. This year's theme, Taking Your Ideas to Market, gives a close-up of the real people behind the scenes with the big ideas who needs to get it out to the world. For what good is an idea if it remains just an idea? Try it, experiment, iterate, fail, try again. Change the world. That's a quote taken from the famous optimist and TED Talk speaker Simon Sinek. But how fitting it is as a solid reminder to us to take the bold steps. So I encourage our creatives and creators who may have joined today's forum and who may think your idea is too small, not to sit on it, but to run with it. Take it to market, as no idea is too small and none too big. Congratulations again, JIPO, for taking on this mantle, and a big thank you to all the supporting bodies and organizations around the world who helped to make this week a reality. It promises to be nothing less than the best, with every day showcasing a different area of interest. Beginning with yesterday's church service, it's already starting to feel good, and I am extremely happy to be a part of this. All the very best to a successful week of activities, and may those who truly need to benefit from this staging benefit. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Mrs. Salmon. That was very inspiring, and we look forward to welcoming you to your first IP Week celebrations with us. Okay, so now I'm going to invite everyone to listen to the message from the Director General of the World Intellectual Property Organization, Mr. Darren Tang. He sent a pre-recorded message for us, so we're going to hear that message now.
It is a great pleasure to address this message to our friends in Jamaica on the occasion of World Intellectual Property Day. Jamaica is a wellspring of talent and creativity. Jamaicans are known for their natural ability to innovate and create, and for breaking the mold and thinking out of the box. The home of ska, rocksteady, dancehall, and of course reggae, Jamaican musicians continue to enthrall music lovers from across the globe, from Bob Marley to Jimmy Cliff and Shaggy, to Buju Banton and emerging artists like Jane Magismo and Savannah. Today we celebrate SMEs, which collectively make up 90% of all companies in the world, employ 70% of workers globally, and represent close to half of the world's economy. They're often run by someone that we know personally, someone down the road, a friend from school, a relative we grew up with, our siblings, our parents. And in Jamaica, SMEs play a major role in the national economy and in job creation. They are at the heart of Jamaica's economy. These companies are the producers, the creators, the entertainers, the entrepreneurs, and the cultural legends that make up the very fabric of economic and social life in Jamaica. Strong Jamaican brands like Blue Mountain Coffee, Jamaican Castor Oil, and Jamaican Jerk Sauces, all of which reflect Jamaica's deep culinary and cultural heritage, started as small micro enterprises, but are now thriving thanks to their smart use of IP. But yet, many SMEs still lack knowledge about how IP can help them translate their ideas into products, and how IP can be a very powerful tool for them to compete and to grow. A recent study shows that SMEs in Europe that own IP rights like trademarks, designs, and patents have close to 70% more revenue per employee than those that haven't used IP. But only 9% of SMEs in Europe have actually registered their IP rights. I suspect the situation is similar in every other part of the world. And that's why this year, the focus of World IP Day is timely and relevant. IP and SMEs, taking your ideas to the market. We need to work with SMEs to enable them to use IP to support their business goals. By dedicating World IP Day this year to SMEs, we show our support to the men and women who keep our economies afloat, whether it is through raising their awareness of IP, by talking about it in a business-friendly way, designing programs that enable them to better navigate the process of IP registration and protection, creating tools that allow them to be better at IP management and strategy, or helping them to build skills and capabilities in using IP to grow their businesses. Whatever help that we can render to our SMEs is help that we can render to the bedrock of your economy and the backbone of the global economy. Ultimately, it will help our world to build back better. That is why the sterling work of the Jamaican Intellectual Property Office is so important, especially during these uncertain times. I applaud the achievements of the office in making IP, bringing the IP message to the people through online platforms, and increasing IP awareness, especially among Jamaica's SME community. Please keep up the hard work and please keep up the great work. On this World IP Day, let's celebrate our SMEs and work together to help them use IP as a tool to grow so that they can take their ideas to the market. On this World IP Day, let's celebrate our SMEs and work together to help them use IP as a tool to grow so that they can take their ideas to market. Happy World IP Day.
Okay, well, I think that was quite an appropriate message, and this morning has really demonstrated the importance, if there was any doubt about how intellectual property can help your business to grow and to provide you with the protection that you need. It is now my great pleasure to welcome the Minister of State, Dr. the Honorable Norman Dunn. The Minister of State is a trained pharmacist who I have worked with on the Pharmacy Council previously before he became the Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. He truly understands the importance of intellectual property and how this can help to grow your business. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Minister Dunn to give his greetings. Minister Dunn, over to you.
Good morning, and happy World IP Day. It's a pleasure to join you here today. And thank you very much, Madam Lilyclear, for that introduction. Yes, we have worked together well on the Pharmacy Council of Jamaica. So Mr. Andre De Carlo, our chairman of Jaipur, Miss Debbie Salmon, and congratulations, Debbie, first woman. It's very, very, very nice. Mr. Hugh Graham, representing the leader of the opposition, P.S. Templar, other distinguished persons from Jaipur, as well as from the World Intellectual Property Office. Are
you hearing it?
So the theme is taking ideas to market, and it couldn't be at a more important time, Ms. Bellamy, because of the importance of MSMEs to Jamaica. I heard the representative from the World IP Office highlighting the statistics as far as the MSMEs is concerned in that side of the world. But in Jamaica, MSMEs are so important because there are about 424,000 MSMEs in Jamaica, contributing about 3.7% to our GDP, again, to show the importance of MSME to Jamaica, as well as the length and breadth of Jamaica is littered with small and medium-sized and micro business in general. And therefore, it is one of those industries that is at the heart and soul of Jamaica. So before I go on any further, I would like to apologize for our minister, Minister Shaw, who is not able to be here at the moment, but he's actually on his way. And he has asked me to tender his apology until his arrival. But this is an area that is absolutely important to him, and he has seized of the importance of intellectual property, and for Jamaica in particular. Now, the crisis as we have it, the pandemic, we believe, has thrown up much opportunities. It's not just the negatives of it, but the opportunities. And it is an opportunity for us to strengthen our MSMEs. And at the ministry, we have taken on that mantra to strengthen our MSMEs in Jamaica. If you would have noticed, for persons who are outside of Jamaica and would have access to data from Jamaica, in our just concluded budget presentation from the Minister of Finance, they have dedicated a sizable chunk of financing to MSMEs. And one aspect of that chunk is on the digital divide, because we want to ensure that we bridge this digital divide to give MSMEs in particular a fighting chance. The world is now our stage. Jamaica is not just our stage, but the world is our stage. And therefore, if the world is our stage, and if we're strengthening our IT protocol here, IP protocol here, as well as IT infrastructure for small and medium-sized enterprises, then you can imagine the importance of IP at this stage. Because if the world is a stage that we're going to play on, then we have to ensure that our IP is protected. The representative from the World Organization, I was so impressed with the statistics and the information that he gave on Jamaica with regards to our artists and our commodity, which means that he's well aware of it. And if he is in fact well aware, we have to make sure that brand Jamaica is protected, and that for markets that are far flung from ours, when persons hear about Jamaica, then they know about the products, that their products are authentic, that our artists are authentic, because they have been registered and their IP is protected. I want to congratulate Jaipur. Started off great yesterday with a church service, which was marvelous. And as I mentioned then, God has to be in the midst of everything that we do. And I wish you a great week with all the activities and the successes that will come. But I want to say something, that Jaipur has really distinguished himself over the years. I mean, it's the agency in Jamaica and the agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce that seeks to protect our interests, this invisible interest that most people do not see. And by protecting our invisible interests, to ensure that we are in fact registered and the products and services here are registered. I want to congratulate Jaipur for the work that you have done and continue to do. The movement into the secondary schools, which will bolster the interest of individuals in this particular area and to show how important this area is to our survival. We're an island state. We're a small nation of just about 3 million persons. Can you imagine if we can get our intellectual property all protected because of the innovations that keep coming from this small rock of land we call Jamaica? So thank you very much. And I wish you a great and successful week on behalf of our Minister, Minister Shaw, the ministry, our peers, and all the staff here at the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Thank you very much. Happy World Day.
Thank you so much, Minister Dunn, for those words of encouragement and for reminding us of the importance of the MSME sector, not only to the world, but specifically to Jamaica, and the fact that we have over 400,000 members of that community. We're almost at the end of the launch of Intellectual Property Day, but I'm going to encourage everyone, if it is possible, for you to continue to stay with us, because we're going to have a webinar that is focused exclusively on the theme for Intellectual Property Day and in Jamaica for Intellectual Property Week. Minister Dunn mentioned, and our chairman also mentioned, the fact that we have targeted not only secondary schools, but also primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions. And last year, we had an extremely successful essay competition, which saw participation from 10 of the 14 parishes in Jamaica. Today, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Chantal English, the Copyright and Related Rights Manager, to launch the Jaipur essay competition. Ms. English.
Ms. Bellamy. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and happy World Intellectual Property Day. We are excited. The Jamaica Intellectual Property Office is happy to launch our essay competition 2021 under the theme, Why are intellectual property rights important to micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises? The essay competition is open to students from the primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions across Jamaica. Applications should be submitted to copyright@jipo.gov.jm, and the deadline for submission of essays is September 30th, 2021. Should you require further information, please feel free to contact us at 876-946-1300 or 876-946-1789, or visit our website at www.jipo.gov.jm. Let us now hear from the winners of last year's competition.
Chantal, we seem to be having some technical problems because I'm not seeing the presentation with the winners from last year. Chantal, are you hearing? Well, we seem to be having some technical difficulties with sharing the presentation from the winners of the essay competition last year. So perhaps what we can do is to find some time during the webinar, which will commence right after this program. So I would like to thank the European Union Intellectual Property Office, the chairman of the Jaipur Advisory Board, Mrs. Debbie Salmon, Mr. Darren Tang for his recorded message, Minister Norman Dunn for his message, also to acknowledge and recognize the presence of the representative of the leader of the opposition, Mark Golding. I'd like to thank Mr. Graham for joining us this morning on the launch of World Intellectual Property Day. I'd also like to thank the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Investments and Commerce, Mrs. Sancia Bennett Templar. This is her first IP week as Permanent Secretary. I'd like to thank her also for joining us, and for all the members of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office team, whether the management and staff or the advisory board, and those who support the work of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this morning for the launch of World IP Day. Without further ado, I'm now going to segue to the Deputy Director, Legal Counsel of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, Marcus Goff, who will be your moderator for the webinar, which will commence now. So thank you so much for joining us for the launch. And now over to Marcus for the webinar, our first webinar on Intellectual Property Day 2021. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. No? Not hear me so clearly?
Yes, we're hearing you. We're hearing you. Go ahead.
Okay. 1 second. Okay, all right. Thank you very much for staying with us. So, as I understand it, what we are going to do with the webinar is that there is another link that we are going to invite you to join to have the webinar connected. I'm just looking at the flyer here to see so that I can direct you accordingly. So I'm going to ask if Mr. Hope can just post the link as we transition to the webinar. As Ms. Bellamy said, we want to thank everyone for joining us on the opening ceremony and the launch of World IP Day and World IP Week for us. And I'm going to ask Mr. Hope just to put it in the chat, right, for everyone to see the link for us to transition to the webinar, which is about to start. So apologies for that, but I'm going to ask Mr. Hope to put it in the chat so we can be all connected, all right? So Mr. Hope, please do that for us and we just transition. Thank you. Okay, all right. So we sorted it out and we don't have to move. We don't have to move. So we're going to stay right here, which I think is the preferred action. So apologies for that. Yes, it's easier for us to stay right here. So I'm going to go right into the program. Sorry for that. Right. So my name is Marcus Ruff. I'm Deputy Director and Legal Counsel here at JIPO. And I'm very pleased to have with us this afternoon, or sorry, should I say this post-opening ceremony segment of the World IP Day. A distinguished panel of speakers to share with us on the topic of IP and MSMEs, the importance of IP for MSMEs taking your ideas to market. What we want to do is really highlight the IP Week theme and the World IP Day theme in a way that can bring it in a practical understanding for our MSMEs here in Jamaica and the region who are joining us. So we will be hearing from, in this segment, Mr. Oral Shaw, Principal Director of the MSME Division in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. We're hearing from Ms. Samara Howell, Executive Director of the Jamaican Manufacturers and Exporters Association, as well as Ms. Manes Nakata, Managing Director of Lakeshore Agro-Processors Enterprises in Malawi, and from Ms. Rachel Jones, founder of Snapdragon Monitoring Limited out of the UK. Without further ado, I'm going to just invite each of our speakers to speak briefly on the perspective of their topic in terms of their own experience and their own journey and their own perspectives, of course, on this topic. I'm going to first up invite Ms. Samara Howell, Executive Director of the Jamaican Manufacturers and Exporters Association, to present on behalf of the JMEA in terms of the issue of IP and its importance to MSMEs. So Ms. Howell, welcome and pleasant morning.
A pleasant morning to you, Marcus. Good to see you. Good morning to everyone, and congratulations to JIPO on this launch of World IP Day. Marcus, it's so good to be at the same table with you discussing the importance of IP to Jamaican businesses, albeit from a virtual perspective or via the virtual route. It takes me back to our days in Geneva as we sat in WIPO advancing Jamaica's interests as it relates to country name protection. I am going to ask you to give us screen sharing privileges, Marcus. I have a small presentation, PowerPoint presentation, to go with our discussion this morning.
Sure, right now.
Still not seeing the screen.
Should I add you?
It's to the JMA, Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association. That's where we're sharing the screen from.
Okay.
All
okay.
Right. Marcus, I think we're still having a little technical difficulty.
Not connected yet?
Francine or Francis, JMEA.
Okay, Miss Francis, I see. All right, so could you please ask Miss Francis as a co-host to share screen? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I will be giving a perspective from the JMEA as it relates to our micro, small, and medium enterprises and them taking their ideas to market. I will first start off with a profile of the JMEA. Believe it or not, the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association is made up of predominantly micro, small, and medium enterprises. So far from the popular belief that we're a big boys club, approximately 74% of our over 400 members are MISMEs spanning several key subsectors, all plying a trade that at some stage requires the utilization of IP rights. And you can see on my screen some of the top 7 subsectors that are represented in the JMEA. In our work at the JMEA, through our business support advisory service, we often stress the importance of intellectual property rights, especially to our smaller members, and what IP protection means to their business. The message we try to drive home is that IP means business, and it is a key consideration in everyday business. And so we often say to them that the use of IP is important to grow one's business asset portfolio, protect hard-earned assets, build and maintain customer loyalty, and of course, IP allows your goods or services to become recognizable in a competitive business environment. And some of the main benefits to our manufacturers and exporters are listed on the screen. And in our business advisory services, this is what we try to impress. It will increase your company's local and export market value. It will increase your competitive advantage in the global market. It will provide brand protection in any market you choose to have your IP registered. IP drives innovation and business growth, boost your productivity, and of course, you can gain additional revenue streams via IP assets. So these are some of the things that we try to express to our members. But really and truly, what is the reality on the ground? What are we seeing in our membership as it relates to their own perception and interest in intellectual property rights? Admittedly, Jamaican businesses have come a far way in the recognition of the importance of IP to their business. However, despite public education drives and awareness campaigns, many smaller companies we find have limited knowledge of IP benefits. There is a lack of understanding as to how IP applies to their business, what can be considered as IP in their business, and the relevance of protecting those assets. Even less companies, particularly those micro, small, and medium enterprises that are not involved in exporting, understand the different types and categories of IP and how they are effectively used. So what we find is the micro companies that are exporting, they are more versed on intellectual property rights and what it means for their business and expanding their business. But for the majority of the MSMEs that are still producing only for the local market, we do find that their knowledge of the importance of IP is limited. So there is the general perception in micro, small, and medium enterprises that there is little benefit compared to the investment they may have to make for IP. And this is because of cost. For many businesses, minimizing cost is a priority, and IP oftentimes is not seen as a critical factor. And when we're talking to them about the need for IP, they'll say there are bureaucratic delays in the application process, so it takes time. And even when we say to them, so if you invest in your IP, this ensures that you have a legal right. Your legal right is protected and you can sue in the case of infringement. And then there is the whole challenge of cost. Again, they'll say, but you know, if I have the rights, how can I enforce the rights if they're infringed upon? Because that means legal fees, and that in and of itself causes litigation to be daunting. And what we're seeing in terms of the national IP related challenges, just by interacting with our membership, is that there still remains knowledge gap amongst our business as it relates to the importance of IP to their business. We find that the process of subscribing to IP can be viewed as cumbersome, expensive, and time consuming. And to simply put, most businesses say to us that, you know, IPRs, enforcing IP rights, ensuring that we have those rights, we just cannot afford them or even dedicate the time to the application process. But we at the JMEA know that there are a lot of opportunities for Jamaican micro, small, and medium enterprises. There are increased market opportunities for our Jamaican companies to tap into, and IP protection is an important tool in protecting their interests. We find that our manufacturers and exporters are constantly innovating, especially now during the pandemic, to access available markets. And we cannot run the risk of having our micro, small, and medium enterprises operating without the protection and benefits made available to them through IP. So how do we help our micro, small, and medium enterprises protect themselves when taking their ideas to market? Big on the agenda of the JMEA for the past couple of months is the Madrid Protocol and the swift adoption of the Madrid Protocol. And the reason is because the JMEA is a business support organization, and one of our core business is advocating for our members in order to ensure that the enabling environment that they need to thrive and expand their business do exist. And we believe that Jamaica acceding to the Madrid Protocol will address two of the major challenges micro, small, and medium enterprises are facing as it relates to adopting IP rights as they look to expand their business, not only locally, but in the global marketplace. And these are the two challenges: are cost and time. Because for us, the protocol removes the burden of individually filing applications in each of the countries listed under the agreement. And we believe that this in and of itself will enhance the protection of Jamaican brands in the global marketplace. And what we've seen even in our own research at the JMEA is that in 2019, I think we had about 1,232 applications for trademark coming out of Jamaica in comparison to 7,000 odd coming out of the DR, which is one of Jamaica's closest neighbors. And what we find is that the issues that our MSMEs have highlighted to us as an association is actually translated in the numbers as it relates to the data. And so we believe that the swift adoption of the Madrid Protocol is one way to go in ensuring that our MSMEs do get the proper protection in taking their ideas to market. We know that there is much that is being done as it relates to raising awareness and training our small business to see the relevance of IP in their business and their everyday business decision. We have to applaud JIPO for what it is doing so far as it relates to the seminars that you have ongoing. We've worked as a team, JIPO and the JMEA, in the past as it relates to having workshops and seminars on the use of IP in one's business, but we think that we still have a lot of work to do as it relates to educating the populace. And I like the fact that we're already in the primary schools, in the secondary schools, teaching our future entrepreneurs the importance of IP as it relates to innovation, creativity, and protecting those ideas as they advance them into frugal business in the marketplace. We believe that we need to improve access to IP advice. When you speak to our micro, small, and medium enterprises, they say they need to be able to access sound, commercially relevant IP advice at an affordable cost, which will enable them to make more informed decisions. We need to ensure there is monitoring of markets and supply chains to safeguard against IP infringements. This will help to reduce obstacles to allow for micro and small businesses to export their products more effectively and increase their market value. And importantly, we need to encourage IPR's audit. Ongoing monitoring is needed to safeguard intellectual property rights. And there is a need for these audits to ensure that once our MSMEs have employed the use of IP in their business, they are maximizing the most of these IP benefits. We find that the MSMEs do not require detailed knowledge of IP. What they need is the knowledge to identify the opportunities and risks that IP presents. We find that once they've identified where IP may be relevant to their business, many will seek further advice on how to make the most of their IP assets. We must ensure that micro, small, and medium enterprises do not miss opportunities to maximize the potential impact of their investment by failing to protect their ideas. So in closing, the perceived complexities of IPRs deter many micro businesses we find from investing the time in developing effective IP strategies. And as such, there are many operating without adequate IP protection. And we all know on this platform that great ideas with the right and adequate protection will position our SMEs to compete better. So in essence, we all have our part in providing the enabling environment and putting in place the support structure needed to ensure that the rights of our SMEs are protected and preserved when taking their ideas to market. So these are my few views from the JME, what we're seeing in our membership as it relates to their perception and their interest in IPRs. We've highlighted the gaps and also highlighted ways in which we believe that we can fill these gaps as we look to move forward in this very important business of intellectual property rights. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you very much, Samara. Thank you very much for that. As usual, to the point, and I think very much focused on the issues that we are grappling with as well at JIPO, of course, how to best support the MSME sector. And so we know JMEA continues to do stellar work, and we're pleased to see you in that post as ED, right? Right, coming from our days at WIPO. So nice to see you there, and thanks for your presentation.
Thank you, Marcus.
Okay, so we are now joined by our Honorable Minister, Minister Alder Shaw, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce. I see they're smiling, beaming, ready to join us. Yes, sir. I'm told you're going to grace us with a few words, so we invite you to do so now, sir, if you would like to. Thank you. You're on mute, sir. Yes.
Actually, I had asked Dr. Dunn to do that for me.
Which he did, sir. Which he did very ably. Yes.
Very good. Well, I'll just listen in for a while because I have cabinet shortly. But my apologies for being late.
Okay, so we appreciate you still joining us despite your busy schedule, and that shows the importance of IP to the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, and keep up the good work, guys. Proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so continuing with our program then, we will be hearing next from Miss Manes Nakata. Miss Nakata Manes is a national of Malawi, and she is quite an accomplished young lady who we thought we would love to have on our IP Week, IP Day program this year. Manes has a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Malawi. She is the Director General of Lakeshore Agro-Processors Enterprises and Kakoma Estate in Malawi. She has been managing projects in Malawi having to do with agriculture over the last 8 years. She is the first ever board chairperson of the National Youth Council of Malawi. She has worked with the USAID, IFAD, USDA, and NORAD, as well as is also an ambassador for Southern Africa Confederation of Agriculture Unions. She's an accomplished entrepreneur. She works with rural farmers, with young people, and particularly with women as well in agriculture. She trains youth and is very much focused on food security issues. She represents Malawi and the African continent on the youth entrepreneurship programs in Brussels briefings at the World Economic Forum, the Brazil Africa Institute, the Korea Institute for Development Strategy, the Borlaug World Food Prize State University, as well as the China South-South Cooperation Program. Indeed, she has many accolades despite her youth. And so we're very pleased that we could have her with us this morning here. I think it's evening where she is, and that she'll be able to share with us just her journey, any tips and best practices, of course, from her own experiences as a successful MSME. So welcome, Manes. Welcome, and thanks for joining us. You just need to unmute, but we can see you. Well, let me see, maybe we can help you unmute. So just for you to unmute, because I see your microphone is closed. There you go.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you and see you now.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for having me. And thank you so much. Greetings from the warm heart of Africa, Malawi. Marcus, if possible, I want you to put up my presentation because I'll be speaking from my presentation. And
okay,
then
yes.
you can, yes, you can put up on the screen and then, yeah. Okay, then make it quick. I'll be speaking very quick on the introduction. Basically, thank you so much. As I said, I just wanted to share with you what I've been doing for the past 8 years and also related to IP. Marcus, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah. You can pass that. I want the part of the introduction. Go to the next slide, please. Go to the next slide.
Could we move it to the next slide, please? She's asking for it to be moved.
Okay. As I said, Malawi has over 1.9 million young people who are unemployed, and their also unemployment rate is over now. That was 2016, which was above 18%, but now it's over 30% of the young people. And also unemployment rate, these are women and youth, they are over 25%. And their main sources of employment in Malawi, about 42.5, which is now they are 52.5 are subsistence farmers. These are young women and men that are doing agriculture, because Malawi is an agri-based country and 80% of our population lived in the rural area, and almost 30% of our GDP, they are contributed from the agriculture sector. You can move to the next slide, please. So Malawi government has implemented policies on technical and vocational trainings, and also none of these institutions are focusing on transformation on the subsistence nature of agriculture, like what we are doing. So my enterprise, that was 8 years ago, identified that gap and seed potential. So we focused on filling these gaps as the employment opportunities for the youth of Malawi. Go to the next slide, please. The next one. Next, yeah. So as the enterprise, how do we work with women? We have a number of activities. I'll just mention the few of them. If you have more questions, you can ask. Normally, we mobilize youth and women into crop production. And also we are working with youth and women as business partners, not beneficiaries. Basically there we normally provide the revolving fund through farm loans and also providing the extension of services. In Malawi, we don't have enough of extension of services. So as a private sector, we thought that need was very important for us to boost the production. And then also we do train these young women and men in agriculture, in good agriculture practices. You can move next to the next slide, please. So basically, we do provide so many trainings, as we said, to the farmers. We provide market from the low cassava, rice, soya beans on the primary production, because we are doing the value additions. So basically, these women, we work with them, we train them from the hands-on, at the community levels, at the village level, so that they can start producing the good products from the primary production to the market. Mostly in Malawi, we don't have the structured market in crops, so the crops that we are focusing. Some years ago, maybe before our age, they only want tobacco structured markets. So these are not involved with the women and youth. But the crops that we are focusing in, they're the ones that the youth and the women are focusing in. So we make sure that we give market to them, but also to let them know the importance of IP, because the importance of the trademark and the IP to the local communities from the primary production, it helps us to take us to the market, to the local market, and also identify, or people identify us from the local market or the international market. So we normally provided the permanent and temporary jobs. You can go to the next slide, please. Next, please. So then the third number 3 activity, normally we focus on developing the youth agripreneurship skills. Basically, we provide land, but not for free in our farms through the contract farming with the farmers around our areas and the districts that we are in. And we also provide labor market to these farmers and also provide opportunities for interns. We basically have something as an incubation center where we host university interns, maybe after a year or plus. After they graduated, we make sure that some of them, they are employed, or some of them, they're also creating their own jobs. As you know, our population is over 18 million people, but out of 18 million people, more than 75 are young people at the age of 15 to 35. The next, please. Next, please. So, yeah. How do we involve in the IP at our enterprise as LABE? Whenever an equipment is brought and installed, the interested people are trained. Because, as I said, it is very important to sensitize our communities or our partners, which are the small and medium farmers, which are the youth, women and youth, that they stay in the communities. They don't know about the IP. And we make sure that we teach them to know the know-how of the importance of the IP from the hands-on experience. So, but also technology is used to add the value for our products for fortification and refining of cooking oil. The use of unique trademarks also helps us on our products to different from other products. As I said, that going to the market with a trademark, you are protected, and also our fellow partners, which are the small and medium farmers, they are protected because they know the importance of IP. And also the unique package using the technology and let our products to stand out to the market. Next, please. So this is just part of the drivers of our success as an enterprise. We are using the knowledge gained from different trainings and sharing to the youth and the women. As I said, I did, and I visited so many research institutions across the globe just to be trained and also to train my fellow youth. Basically, this is very important to our enterprise because that time when we're starting with only 2,000 of the small and the medium farmers, which are the youth and women, but now we reach out more than 10,000. So this being part of the drivers, and also we are using the already existing groups on agriculture development committees, but also we do involve stakeholders like Ministry of Agriculture. We don't want to work in a parallel line. We wanted to be relevant to the ministries. So basically we work with the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Trade, and religious organizations in the communities. In the communities, mostly we dispense our messages through the traditional readers because they are the ones that stays there right in the villages, but also using the public intensive awareness and provision of support through farm inputs, loan, and extension services. So using our success stories, that's one of our drivers, because mostly people, they see that our mandate is to make sure to improve our economic development through the young people. So if they see the fellow young youth that are involved in be part of our enterprise or part of our journey, there are more youth that are joining, and they also see potential of like joining, working with us so that we develop our country. And also periodically changing of strategies. On my journey of entrepreneurship at 10 years, I've been changing different strategies. The way we started, it's not the way that we are now. We've been changing so many strategies just to diversify in our business, just to make it economic viable and also business viable. Next, please. So these are just one of the reasons why we work with women and youth. Good recovery in terms of the loans that the farmers normally have, and also stability of women and youth in groups. Because we don't work with individual farmers or partners, we work with those women and youth that are in clubs and groups of maybe 20 or 50 or cooperatives. So we make sure that we maintain the same group and also reach out to more, because women basically they are at heart, because they are the ones that they are reaching the communities. They are involved in 90% of the farms, and also they work hard because they know every day they will help their kids to pay them to the university or primary schools, and basically in their household. And women are also dedicated and hardworking in the farms, and also high cooperation in implementing the good agriculture practices. Next, please. I think some of the things I've already mentioned. We are normally now working with over 8,000 women and youth, and also every year we do have the university students, over 15 or 20 of the university students that we are exposed to them to the entrepreneurship and support business partners. And also we provide the business entrepreneurship and leadership skills to train the women and youth in business partners, and also offering the labor markets. So basically we are also involved in activities under climate change. In the next slide, please. Next, please. Yeah, as I mentioned, as an entrepreneur or as anyone else, we do have so many challenges, but I'll just mention a few of them. Basically here, there are normally culture norms and practices that they underrate women. You know, in our tradition, you feel like a woman they are underprivileged. So sometimes that sometimes it affects our working with the women, and also low contribution of women during the meetings. Basically, these are culture norms, and also the provision of handouts. I will mention that on the handouts as a business entity or as an entrepreneur, because we teach these women to be business people. So there are also some of these women that they don't have a business mindset. So sometimes we do meet the problems like that, because the women, just to change their mindset, sometimes it's not easy. And we also, I think the other challenge is post-harvest losses due to poor storage and transportation. In rural areas, in Malawi, we don't have good roads, we don't have infrastructures, we don't have electricity in the rural areas. So mostly you do the production at the rural area, and then you do the value addition at the distance of more than 500 kilometers just to export your product from the primary production. So it's also a challenge. Next, please, the last one. I'll just mention the one, our aim is to create more than 250 direct jobs, because currently we have 100 employees that I have, and then we have like 500, these are temporary employees that they work with us every day. So we are aiming to upgrade as we are going as we are moving forward, and also to establish the Corporate Development Fund. This fund will help us in terms of the IP experience after moving across the country. We thought this can help us to mobilize and to mobilize the youth and the women to know the importance of IT and also the importance of our products. That if we do the trademark, it will take us to the good market. Next, please. Next. I think I mentioned. Next. Yeah, so these are just some of the activities, some of the farmers that we work with in contract farming. And I think there was a demonstration where we are coming from. The next, please. Next. Okay, so as you saw on the first, as you saw on the first, the first pictures that I was showing, that time it was before IP. This time, as you see, even the labeling is after the IP. So now we are taking our products to the international or local market just because the IP helps us to have our own label, to have our own trademark. Next, please. Basically, as I mentioned earlier, most of our employees are the university students. So basically, they are involved in different work. Some they are involved in factories where we are producing, we are adding the value additions. Mostly, we also do provide the services to the Malawi government. For instance, the trainings. It depends with the training in terms of health issues, in terms of nutrition, in terms of economic issues. So we are involved in different activities. So we basically dispense these one of our staff to do different things, and also to train them not only to focus on employment, but also they should be focusing on them to create jobs for other people. So these are one of some members of staff. Next, please. Next. Okay. This year, part of the youth trainings that we do provide. We provide more than 1,000 youth. We provide trainings to more than 1,000 youth every year in terms of trainings, in terms of business trainings. So these are one of the trainings that we did last year during the COVID. Next, please. These are some of our products that we exhibit on the International Youth Day, EU Youth Day. So in the picture, there are the cooking oils, which is our main product, and we also have some beans. And the other ones that you see there are flour. In Malawi, this is almost our staple food, the corn flour, and also the tree seedlings in terms of climate change, the mitigations of climate change. Next, please. So these are some of the university interns. As I mentioned, that every year to our enterprise, we do host from 15 to 20 or 30. Last year, we had 25 from University of Malawi, but we had also 5 from Michigan State University, as we mentioned earlier, that we also have some partners that helps us to move forward and also to train our young people in terms of entrepreneurship and other skills. Next, please. Thank you so much for listening to me. And once again, I would like to, on behalf of Malawi and the National Youth Council of Malawi, and also on behalf of my enterprise, I would like to thank your team for organizing this. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manes. Thank you so much. Lots of information. And as I was sharing with you earlier, when we spoke, that Jamaica has a lot in common, and we understand the agriculture-based, society and economy, and it's really inspiring to see you working with so many people, especially women and youth. Really, really inspiring. So I know we have a lot of questions that will arise, right? But since we have time and I'd like to have a vibrant discussion, I'm going to ask you just to hold on with us, and we'll have our next presenter, and then we can have a more interactive discussion on all of these issues and topics and have some questions from our audience. All right. But thanks again, Manes, for joining us. And I'm sure there'll be some questions for you shortly. Okay, so I am now going to invite another of our distinguished panelists, Mr. Oral Shaw. Mr. Oral Shaw is the Principal Director in the MSME Division in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. That division is relatively new, in light of course, recent developments concerning MSME sector, and just shows the central importance of the MSMEs, to the economy and to, of course, the government focus towards national development. And so we're pleased to have Mr. Shaw with us to share just what the government is doing with the MSME sector, and what are some of the opportunities that can be expected, of course, that are in the pipeline. So welcome, Mr. Shaw. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Marcus. And I must apologize for being late. I was having some issues, technical issues coming on board. But I'm on board now, and I'm happy to participate. And first of all, I just want to, the only presentation I was privy to was the one from Miss from Malawi. Excellent presentation there. So I just want to make reference to that.
Yes, Earl, no problem. Thank you, man, for joining us. So you want to share a screen, right? And
all right.
We can do it for you if you wish.
Yeah, I think it's there. All right. Are you seeing it?
It's coming up. Yes, we can see it now. Yes, we can see.
All right. Okay.
Probably just put it in slideshow mode so it can show fuller.
Oh, it's not there yet?
Yeah, just click slideshow. It's a slideshow up there. Click slideshow.
1 second. Participant mute. Oh, let me just see something. I see new slide. I'm not seeing slides.
See there on top there, beside animations, above the cursor right there, in the orange section, slideshow.
I'm not seeing slideshow at all. Let me just go to this and see. No, let me just.
No, okay. So just come down from home. Home's on the left hand side there, and just come right down. Yeah, come down more. Insert. No, not down. Go right across the screen. Sorry.
Insert design.
Yeah. Right. Go down. Animation slideshow.
Yes, but I'm seeing design, but I'm not seeing.
No.
I'm just.
No, man. Go down more right. Transitions. To the right of design.
Hold on there, Marcus. Yeah.
Transition is there, above there, in the orange section, transitions.
I'm not seeing all of those things, because
you're not seeing those things.
No, because I'm very familiar with this thing. All I'm just seeing is layout, new slides.
All right.
Slides, drawings.
How about we share for you? We can share for you.
Yeah, you could do that. You could go ahead, but I'm really not seeing those because those would normally come up in a traditional presentation.
Right. Okay. Mr. Hope, could you share Mr. Shaw's presentation, please? Thanks much.
All right. You're seeing it better now?
Yes.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you for your participation and also the persons who are present today. I'm so sorry for this. Of course, Marcus had introduced me. Marcus, can you move then to the next slide? Marcus?
Yes.
Right. So my presentation will take just about 10 minutes, and the structure has to do with 4 principal areas. I want to provide some overview to the MSME office. I want to also demonstrate to the participants the importance of the sector in Jamaica. I also want to say something about the policy environment for MSME. Very important to this topic that we have today. And I want to highlight some key MSME issues impacting the sector. Can we move down to the next slide to show the, all right, so the government has put MSME entrepreneurship and enterprise development at the center of its macroeconomic strategy. And the government has demonstrated this by setting up a dedicated office to serve the MSME sector in 2016. And that office that I lead is designed to facilitate coordinated support to the players in the sector. Primarily, we have responsibility for policy development and implementation. And I will highlight some of the policies that we have developed since establishment and also where we are with respect to the implementation of those policies. Primarily, our policies are implemented by our agencies, and we have currently 3 agencies for which the MSME division our office has responsibility for, and this is Jamaica Business Development Corporation, the Exim Bank, and the JBDC, the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, primarily provide capacity building, training, and incubation and acceleration services to the MSME sector. Exim Bank, which is another one of our agencies, provide MSME financing support, trade facilitation, insurance provision, principally for those MSMEs in the export market. The MSME office is fully staffed with 6 officers, myself as the principal director, MSME financing specialist, a director of projects and programs. We have a manager for promotion and outreach and administrative support and a key research person. So we have a 6-staff member that runs the office. Next. It's important that I highlight the definition of the MSME sector in Jamaica. And this is contained in our updated 218 MSME policy. And our definition for the MSME sector are really defined based on 2 principal measures: sales turnover and employment. So for the micro sector, those who are considered micro would be those stakeholders, those enterprises that employ less than 5 persons and generate sales of under 15 million Jamaican dollars. If you are small, you will employ over 6 persons and up to 20 and generate under $75 million in sales. You are classified as a medium-sized enterprise if you employ between 21 and 50 persons and you generate sales of over $75 million, but up to $425 million. Now, I am not so sure about the disaggregation of MSMEs who are primarily in the creative and innovative sector, for which IP may be one of the major drivers in that sector, but I suppose that we'll come to that at some point. So that's the definition for MSME sector in Jamaica. And this definition is a standardized definition that is utilized globally, where employment and sales turnover are the principal factors determining how the sector is structured. Can we move to the next slide, please? I really want to highlight the importance of the sector in Jamaica to our national development imperatives. And I want to use a number of matrices to highlight how important this is to the government development objective. We have approximately 425,000 MSMEs in Jamaica. MSMEs account for about 90% of the private sector. The other 10% are really large businesses. MSMEs at the end of December 22 contributed 70 billion in taxation. They account for about 15% of total population and 34% of the employed labor force. Formal MSMEs contribute 3.5% to GDP and an estimated 44% to GDP when informal activities are incorporated. And that work was just recently done by the PSOJ to highlight that when you take formal and informal MSMEs, they contribute about 40%, just over 40% to gross domestic product. That's a significant contribution. Formal MSMEs only account for about 3%, and that is our main challenge that we face. And I will discuss later on some of the initiatives we are doing to increase formalization in the sector. MSME sales at the end of December account for 14% of total sales. So when you look at these statistics, you can see how important the sector is to the government development strategy and objectives, and why we should focus seriously in assisting players in the sector. Next. Earlier, I mentioned a number of policy developments that we have been doing, one of which is the Secured Interest in Personal Property Act. And it comes out of the need of putting in new measures in place because of the challenges that MSMEs face and are confronted with every day. One of the principal challenges that MSMEs face is access to affordable financing. And as a result of that, and that challenge is major because of collateralization issues. The capital providers are faced with less than appealing, less than attractive collaterals for them to bank the MSMEs. So the SIPA Act is designed to broaden the collateral opportunities that capital providers can look at in terms of collateralizing loans to the MSMEs. So this act takes into consideration movable assets, tangible and intangible assets. And this is where IP assets and other non-traditional assets are now being considered as collateral for securing financing. And later on, and I'm pretty sure that Dr. Goff would have probably mentioned about the work that is being done by them, funded by the IDB, looking at strategies for collateral monetizing IPs, which would be a great incentive for providing secured financing to MSMEs using IPs, monetized IPs as collaterals. We had done an operational review of the SIPA Act in 2016, and we discovered that most of the assets that are being secured are really not productive assets, motor vehicles, furnishings, and other tangible assets. And what we have done in recent times is to engage the World Bank into reviewing the SIPA to make it work for MSMEs by focusing on productive assets. That work has been completed last year, and I want to tell you that the act has been improved and enhanced, and they have recommended a secondary market framework where repossessed assets has a market where, and as a result of that, capital providers can now feel at ease that collaterals that they accept to secure loans, just in case there is a default, there is a ready market where they can dispose of those assets and cover their risk. So SIPA is enhanced and improved with a secondary market framework that will be implemented over the next 18 months. Can we move to the next slide, please? There are other policies and initiatives that have been developed in recent times that are supportive and embracing IPs, such as the National Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy, the National Culture Policy, which was done in 2017 for the next 10 years, the National Craft Policy, which is something that is being finalized. I think it will be going to Cabinet very shortly, and the Foreign Trade Policy. These are all policy initiatives that have been developed to support IP in the IP environment. Next slide, please. So my understanding is that JIPO has a well-developed intellectual property strategy designed to support players in the sector and to maximize their full potential and culturally and within the creative industry. They are also doing quite a bit in terms of developing and implementing a national brand strategy to promote all things Jamaican, build intellectual property knowledge capacities through education and training. And I'm pretty sure that as we go through this week, some of these strategies will be amplified and explained. They are also facilitating trying to build and facilitate a culture of intellectual property asset management for wealth creation, which is very critical for MSMEs because that's what they are primarily there for, to create wealth for their businesses and those that they employ, and also to create an enabling environment to drive innovation and creativity. Next slide, please. So some of the main policy issues for IP and MSME development revolves around four main things. The recognition by government that an efficient and equitable IP system is critical to MSME growth and development, and we're aware of that. And this is why we have this week to highlight that and to showcase it and to explain it and to amplify where necessary how that IP system can assist in MSME growth and development. JIPO and the ministry is also keen on developing a modern intellectual property regime to really compensate and incentivize innovation among players in the sector. We are also working collaboratively to create an enabling environment. I just mentioned the enhanced SIPA Act and other policies that I have highlighted earlier. To facilitate modern monetization, I mentioned about the IDB project, which is also has something to do with policy development as well. Registration, protection, and commercialization of IP. And also, and critical to develop a culture of innovation, critical to the growth of MSMEs. Next, please. So I mentioned broadly what the project that the JIPO is doing. I'm not going to say much about it because I'm pretty sure that Dr. Goff and Miss Bellamy will say more about it. But I just want to say briefly that they have gotten some financial and other technical support from the IDB to strengthen the intellectual property ecosystem in Jamaica to increase innovation, competitiveness, and growth in the MSME sector. And essentially, the project, can we move to the next slide? The project has some major components, which revolves around some of the issues that MSMEs face, which is access to financing. And that's why we need to monetize some of the assets, the IP assets, so that we can leverage those to access affordable financing from capital providers. The project also underpins looking at some of the financial constraints that the MSMEs players face that really retard their innovative capacity and ability. And also to create an innovative climate, an enabling climate for the collateralization and commercialization of IP assets in Jamaica. I'm pretty sure that Dr. Goffin, as I mentioned, Ms. Bellamy will say much more about where we are on these dimensions and how close we are to the stage where we can monetize some of these IP assets. Can we move to the next one? So I think I mentioned about some of the key features of the project that they are doing, which is really strengthening the ecosystem, developing a legal framework, looking at risk and risk management, and making recommendation for a secondary market structure, which ties in very well with that World Bank project that we had just completed, having to do with the SIPA regime, which made the clear recommendation that for SIPA to work for MSMEs, we must have a secondary market arrangement in Jamaica, which is something that we are looking to establish within the next 18 months. Next slide, please. So click again there for me, please. Right. So there are some game changers that we are looking at for MSME growth and development. I just mentioned the IDB project, which will be game changing if we can get a framework for monetizing IP assets, which is one of the major things that capital providers are looking for, so that they can quantify and risk rate various IP assets, and as such can provide affordable financing for MSMEs who may want to grow and develop. Click again for me, please. One of the other game changers, which revolves around the project that the IDB is doing, is looking at the legal and financial landscape to facilitate IP MSME growth and development. Next, click. We are also looking as part of the overall ecosystem for IP development and facilitating MSME growth and development through strengthening some MSME support organizations. I mentioned earlier to you the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, which is one of our primary agencies with responsibility that MSME has oversight of, the MSME office has oversight of, which is primarily geared towards providing training, capacity building support, incubation and acceleration services to MSMEs so that we can assist them in bringing them to market. That is principally the role that the Jamaica Business Development Corporation play, and they work very closely with JIPO in this regard. I also mentioned to you the Exim Bank, and I want to say to you today that before the end of this month, we will be making $200 million available to Exim Bank for on lending to MSMEs at less than 5%. And by about August, another $400 million will be transferred to the Exim Bank to provide further capital for MSMEs at less than 5%. So in total, about $600 million will be provided to the Exim Bank over the next 4 months, geared towards providing support to productive MSMEs at less than 5%. This is something that they've been calling for. These funds have come up as a result of our closure of MIDA, the Micro Investment Development Agency. It will be closed out, and we are transferring those funds to Exim Bank as one of our agencies to provide dedicated support to the micro sector, to the MSME sector at affordable rates like 4.75%. So look out for that. Next one, please. So we are also working towards, which ties in with the issue I just raised regarding the financial capability of JIPO to provide support to the MSME sector. So that all ties in with respect to that $600 million agreement. So there are some real game changers to come. One more click there, please. So all of this ties in with making SIPA work, because if SIPA doesn't work, then we are going to be faced continually with the issue of providing affordable financing to MSMEs, because IP assets are movable assets. They are not real tangible, and so they fall within the movable asset column, and there is need for a legal framework where we can monetize those assets and utilize them for collateral and make them attractive to capital providers to drive them to support the sector. They are very keen to support the sector. We have met with them on several occasions, and one of the major issues that these capital providers have is how do we monetize, quantify what an asset value so that they can develop some kind of risk framework and start the process of lending. So it is very important that this project generate the kind of outcomes and recommendations that would really whet the appetite of capital providers to consider providing tangible support to the MSME through financial and other support. This $600 million that we are providing to the Exim Bank is just a start in the process. We are looking at other financing modalities that is on the table, and we will discuss that at some point in terms of how we are going to further capitalize the Exim Bank to the tune of about $10 billion so that we can provide ongoing support to the MSME sector at an affordable rate. I think that it is for now. It's just about 10 minutes or so, Marcus. So thank you for me sharing with you some of the things that the ministry is looking at to make the MSME sector a viable sector for all.
All right, Mr. Shaw, thank you so much. Thank you so much. As I say, the government of Jamaica is doing a lot in terms of the MSME sector. And so we really want to, on World IP Day, have that information being able to be shared. So thanks for sharing that. I think it's really vital, certainly for us in this sector, because from the IP office perspective, we are always being asked by persons. So we've registered our IP, and what next? Where else do we go to get the kind of support? Primarily financial support. It's oftentimes required to, take off or grow their businesses. So we're very pleased that there's so much being done in your office and under your direction in the ministry. So thanks very much for that, sir. I know there were a lot of questions for you.
Yes, I saw one of them, but I leave you to moderate and to do it.
Yes. We're just gonna have our final presenter, and then we'll open up the floor for all questions, for all our presenters. But just to say that yes, Mr. Shaw did forecast quite nicely our panel discussion is coming up this Friday which will be focused on our Jaipur project and how to finance IP-based MSMEs. And so we will be talking more about the issues of increasing access to finance for MSMEs on the strength of their IP on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. All right, so thanks, Mr. Shaw. I'm going to go right into our final speaker before we open up the floor. So I'm going to invite Ms. Rachel Jones to share her experiences with us. Ms. Jones is the founder of Snapdragon Monitoring Limited, a brand protection agency based in Edinburgh, Scotland, where she started after her own product was counterfeited, and she had to go through a painstaking journey, to really get some justice. But out of that, she felt personally affected, by that experience, and so she formed Snapdragon Monitoring, which works with SMEs around the world to help them protect their brands online. She's a member of the EU IPO SME Task Force and the Scottish Government's Trade Board. In 2020, Snapdragon received the Queen's Award for Innovation. So please help me welcome Ms. Rachel Jones, founder of Snapdragon Monitoring Limited. Good afternoon, Rachel, or good morning, or well, evening where you are.
Good morning to you and good afternoon from me. Thank you very much for inviting me along to help celebrate World IP Day with you all. Shall I share my screen? Is that the best thing to do, or do you want to do it from your end? I'm
It's up
happy
to you.
Try.
Yes, you can share if you wish, or if you would like us to do it for you, we can do that.
I'll go for it.
There you go. Yes.
That us there? Great. Fantastic. So, I love IP. In fact, my friends call me Mrs. Trademark, but it's not something I knew much about when I started my first business some 25 years ago. In fact, it was only when a second business looked like it might take off that intellectual property became part of what gets me out of bed in the morning. And to this day, the same is true. So we've heard before that businesses which register their IP, whether as trademarks, design rights, or patents, tend to grow quicker and create more value than those that do not. And for some who innovate, create, and license, the IP is what they sell to others to make money. Those of us who are taking our own products to market, we must be in fact, the world is our oyster. Our inventions, products, brands, and businesses. The product which got me into IP was the Tot Seat, created to envelop my wriggling baby daughter in a chair when we were out and about, and it worked. The Tot Seat, as it became, is a case study, however, in what not to do, as well as what to do. For a start, the word Tot Seat does not export well, particularly to Germany, and as a result, in Germany, we have another trademark, the movie. But for a small business, the portfolio is wide, with 25 pieces. And in creating it at the kitchen table, I thought about IP because I was thinking it's a fabric product and very likely to be copied. Hence, I had a naive need to protect it as far as possible. But I completely failed miserably and expensively along the way to get a patent, with prior art turning up from 1980. Was indeed copied by respected high street chains in the UK and Spain, which is the photo you see.
Rachel?
Yep.
Yes, some parts of your audio seem to be going in and out. I'm not sure exactly why.
Sorry about that.
Yes, I'm not sure if it's.
Shall I bring? I'll maybe sit a bit closer to the screen.
Yes, because we're.
And my video off, otherwise my face will be right there.
We don't mind. We don't mind.
I'll
yes.
shout.
Okay, thanks.
Great, I'll shout. My apologies. Maybe it's a long way from Edinburgh. So best of all, in terms of protecting the Tot Seat, have been our beloved trademarks, particularly in the fight against counterfeits. And the thing about having a product counterfeited, which is relatively cheap, costing less than $30, is that really at least 10 years or so ago, nobody expected anything other than luxury goods to be the victim of fakes. A cheaper product, as we all know, online just looks like a great deal. And this is sadly still the case. But what I discovered to my horror was that when fake tot seats were seized by customs officials, it was hugely difficult for me to fight back as an SME. There were complex, expensive legal-based systems, but nothing within reach of me from a financial point of view. And the problem is that whether you're an MSME or an SME or even a luxury business, in the main, the fakes you see are the tip of the iceberg. But for me, with a baby product, it was safety that was absolutely always at forefront of my mind. And I had to do something about it. So within 2 weeks of finding the fakes, I went to China, to Guangzhou, to Alibaba's headquarters. We had to be able to take the fakes off Alibaba, but I had an intellectual property troll in China camping on my trademark. So to prove the originality of the brand from Scotland was really difficult. I don't know how many SMEs turn up at Alibaba in China demanding to be seen, but certainly 8 years ago, it was not particularly common. Alibaba did change its position to accept non-Chinese IP as proof of originality, and this is a game changer for brands around the world. And this small but significant decision means, and still means today, that anyone can use non-Chinese IP to remove fakes of their brand from Alibaba and AliExpress. There were others pushing for this change at the same time, but I remain convinced that the two Scottish women who travelled 12,000 miles to make their point helped in this decision-making process. So without wishing to bore you, it was this change of decision by the forward-thinking folks at Alibaba which inspired me to develop the business which has become Snapdragon, providing accessible, affordable software to SMEs to fight online. For the smaller business in particular, online is where one must start in the fight against fakes. Online brand protection is definitely not the panacea, but its role in identifying and removing the visibility of fakes so they can't be bought and sold, exported, imported, and distributed is a great and definite start. It means making the most of your trademarks, design rights, and even copyright. Copyright, dear copyright, unregistered but seriously powerful. Never, ever underestimate its value if you have nothing else. So our Swoop software monitors the world's busiest online marketplaces, social media sites, and independent websites to find incidences of infringement. And when we find them, we remove them, using your brand's intellectual property to prove originality. It's quicker and cheaper than the traditional legal process that works really well for the businesses closest to my heart, which are SMEs and micro businesses. So taking a product that we all love, we did some digging on pure Jamaican black castor oil. And these are the sorts of links that we would find that would worry me, because it doesn't look to me particularly as if they have actually come from Jamaica. But emanating from sellers in China, the kind of thing that worries me is that you see at the bottom of this slide that this particular seller has made $290,000 in 74 transactions. So it's something one needs to do something about when that money should really be yours. Take the link offline and it disappears. It's a great start. So using the brand's IP, we report the infringing links like the ones you've just seen, or the brands can do it themselves. Yes, with the right IP and the right process, it works. So gone is the link. And because decent e-commerce sites like Alibaba have improved their processes for sellers, it's great, because some years ago there was a great problem with whack-a-mole, with sellers popping up and again, but this is now extremely rare. 96% of all the links we report on behalf of our customers, these links stay down, which our clients tell us is just the assurance they need. But it isn't just about links on e-commerce sites. Importantly, being aware of websites which crop up is also crucial. And we can see in this screen grab that the use of dashes is becoming increasingly common. but also that the most recent website, Jamaican-blackcasteroil.com, was registered just in February of this year. So people are at this all the time. And in fact, during the pandemic, there was something extraordinary, like 750,000 websites and domains registered in the first 6 weeks of the pandemic from people trying to make money on the back of what was happening around the world. So it's really about being aware of what's out there and stopping them from making money, but it might be money that you should be having. And this is another example about loving your trademark and just looking for it online and making sure that nobody else is using it. If you're into festivals, this is something to be aware of. So how to do it yourself? You take action. Start by doing your research. Google your brand in every language Google offers regularly. Think differently when you do. If you sell a red doll's pram, don't just Google red doll's pram in Russian or Chinese or Portuguese or Korean. Use a description such as small, painted, push toy. Love and protecting your IP will really help fight for the growth of your business. Trademarks can be a relatively cheap thing to invest in, and they will really, really fight for you. Other thing is to be super aware of the potential of parallel supply chains, your factories and your distributors. Ask why the boat suddenly stopped in Singapore. Could commingled stock be a problem? Why are some of your distributors around the world complaining about policy? And sometimes, sadly, how would you feel if your brand, albeit fakes of your brand, are being made by children and subsequently funding prostitution? From a CSR perspective or an ESG perspective, however you look at it, this has become ever more important. So the moral of this tale is that intellectual property is super valuable. It delivers competitive advantage, value through exploitation, and is a truly valuable weapon in your brand armory. Invest in intellectual property where you can, certainly in your home market, but also in China and other territories where you may trade in the future. Intellectual property will fight for the survival of your brand and your business. I really, really hope you won't have issues with copies and fakes and rip-offs in the future. But if you do, remember, imitation is not flattery, and fight right back, defending your brand, your reputation, and your revenues, but most importantly, to keep your customers safe and to ensure your own sanity. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Really, really interesting, you know, and I know it's a real challenge that faces MSMEs in the marketplace, the online challenges, because it's already challenging to respond to IP infringement locally or nationally. And when people see it online, I think they really feel very helpless almost, you know. So it's really interesting that you have had this company set up just to help MSMEs. It's really, I think, quite commendable and very needed, you know. So thanks for that. I definitely can see why your story is so compelling, you know. So thanks for that. I think we've heard a lot from all distinguished panelists this morning, right? And so I'm glad that we have here now approximately an hour, just under, for Q&A, which is I always find to be, you know, the most engaging and sometimes exciting aspects of these webinars, right? So I know you've been holding back our audience members. So please, the floor is now open for you to be able to ask questions of all or any of our presenters we've heard from. So we heard earlier, and just to remind you, from Ms. Samara Howell, Executive Director of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, who spoke about the JMEA and their perspective on IP and how IP is centrally important to the growth of JMEA members and MSMEs in general. We heard from Ms. Maness Nakata from Malawi, a young entrepreneur, agripreneur, who has built up a successful business that really works from the grassroots up, helping women and young persons through agricultural entrepreneurship. Very inspiring. And we also heard from Mr. Oral Shaw, Principal Director of the MSME Division in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, who also shared a lot of what the MSME office is doing in terms of being able to leverage and support the sector. And we heard some large figures being put forth by Mr. Shaw there too, Mr. Oral Shaw, concerning again how much monies are being available for the growth of the sector. So I think there's a lot happening. And again, we just want to, as IP Day and IP Week celebrations continue, focus on what are the opportunities that are available. Sometimes I think we feel that in the sector, there's so much against, being small, and there's not much, being focused on to support those who are small. But in fact, there is quite a lot happening. And so I hope you've been able to at least get some insights from our presentations and our presenters this morning. And of course, we just heard from Ms. Rachel Jones with her own journey on the SME struggles online and how to resist and to triumph. So I'm going to open the floor now for your questions. You might either type them in the chat. We will convey them, or you should be able to, I believe, unmute. I'm not sure, but certainly what we can do is just kick off. So I do see some questions in the chat. So I want to recognize, of course, Mr. Dottie Bookman. Greetings. I see you were asking in terms of how is productive MSMEs defined by lenders. I think that was a question that you had written or asked in the context or during Mr. Oral Shaw's presentation. So I'm going to probably pose that to Mr. Shaw to kick off the discussion. Mr. Oral Shaw, the question, yes. How is productive MSMEs defined by lenders?
Oh, they define a productive enterprise. And that's a very, very useful question that is asked. And my response that I'm going to give, I'm going to use two examples, one being a non-productive enterprise and another one that is a productive enterprise. For example, I'll give you the case of a non-productive enterprise. Take a buyer of Brazilian natural human hair, who goes to Brazil, buys $50,000 of Brazilian hair. And by the way, do you know that natural human hair is now part of our consumer price index, right? Yes, so it's a major product, right? But what they do, they go to Brazil, buy these natural human hair, and it's a big business in Jamaica, and put on a markup on it, sells it, and goes back. It's non-productive, it's not value added. Just suppose that with a farmer down in St. Elizabeth who is producing 40 acres of tomatoes for Grace Kennedy Southern processors for making ketchup and tomato juice, canned juice, and other things for the global market. That's a productive enterprise because it is adding value in the value chain. So I just want to use those examples to show you what is a non-productive enterprise and another one on the other side that is productive. And our focus is not on the Brazilian hair buyer. We're not going to lend them money at 4.5% to go to Brazil to buy human hair and resells and go back. We're facilitating the farmer down in St. Elizabeth to expand that 40-acre plot to 100 acres so that Grace Kennedy can export more, add more jobs, generate more foreign exchange, add to the country's GDP, and just look at the multiplier effects. That's value adding. That's a productive enterprise. So I hope that I made myself clear in terms of the focus. I'm not hearing the Marcus though.
Sorry, I was saying, so value added is the key. Is the key factor.
Value addition. That's right. That's what we want to focus on. And that's what we want to finance and build.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Marcus, I'd just like to make an intervention here. I'm sorry. If anyone has a question that they would like to put to any of the presenters, please just raise your hand and we will acknowledge you and allow you to speak, okay? I put it in the chat, but I'm just saying it. So if anybody wants to raise a question, ask a question, you can just raise their hands and we will allow you to speak. Thank you.
Right. So the floor is open. Anybody wants to, or of course, again, also, right, you can type your questions in the chat. It's a discussion as well, so that, I mean, we're free to have, if a panelist wants to ask another panelist a question also, right, or to share a comment pertaining to what was said by a panelist also. That's also, of course, open to you to do so. So again, the floor is open.
Okay, I would like to say something, please.
Sure.
I thought it was really a wonderful presentation this morning. Everybody contributed. We have someone here who works in our office and she sells us snacks in the days. So I've said, make sure that you're listening because this is for you. You're a micro business person. It's important. I think the point Mr. Shaw made, and which is why what Rachel had to share, I thought was so important because it's necessary for you to have your intellectual property protection. People always say they can't afford to retain the services of an attorney. But if you have your intellectual property protection, you can be your own attorney. And I think not to discount the role of an attorney, but it is important. I know if you're a micro, small, or medium-sized enterprise, you're going to think, wow, this is too expensive for me to get the intellectual property protection. But it is too expensive for you not to get it, given all the time and effort that you put in as an entrepreneur. Getting your intellectual property protection is the key. I mean, and as we know in Jamaica, your intellectual property you can pass it on. So if you have a will, I know we're not really into wills in Jamaica, but if you have a will, you can pass it on to members of your family so that they can benefit from you. But I really wanted to thank all the panelists because I thought it was really on point and very important and an excellent message. So thanks so much to everybody for participating. That's my intervention, but thank you. I thought it was really good and on point. Thanks, Marcus.
Okay. And if I may, Marcus, just to chime in as it relates to Oral's presentation, I think one of the most important aspects is the work that is being done as it relates to monetizing IP assets as collateral. Because when you speak to our members, the smaller members, and they say to you, as Oral said, access to finance is one of the key challenges, one of the main challenges affecting micro, small, and medium enterprises. And I think it's a good way to incentivize them to actually move in the direction of registering their IP, if it is that you can say to them that your IP assets can be collateral for getting access to more finance. And I think that that project Oral that the government has is undertaking with the support of the IDB is really important as it relates to pushing our MSMEs in the right direction as it relates to the importance of IP. You get the money factor in, you'll also get people's attention because at the end of the day, it's costs. It's hard to keep a business afloat, especially in these times. Everybody's looking at how can I minimize my operational costs. Everybody is also looking at how I can tap into new capital source. So I think that is very important and that is very critical as we go forward in terms of this area. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Right. Thanks very much, Ms. Howell, for that response. It's game changing, and I'm pretty sure that Marcus and Liliker will expound on some of the findings of that report on Friday. Marcus, is it?
Yes, Friday
when we bring in the PSOJ and Melanie from the Bank of Jamaica in that forum looking at MSME financing.
Yes, very important topic. And so, I mean, for some years, we've been working on that project to really get it off the ground, and to get support for it. And so we finally were able to secure some funding, and we're going to have our team of consultants as well on there Friday to, share their experiences from other countries too, how they are also seeking to, have IP as collateral, in their ecosystems and what it can do to support the MSME sector and innovation and IP registrations too.
And most importantly, how it is going to work for the MSMEs. Very critical.
Right. I mean, as we say, as you pointed out, Mr. Shaw, the MSME sector is the majority of our entrepreneurs, right, in Jamaica.
Yes. 90% of the private sector are comprised of MSMEs. Yes, very important sector.
Right, very, very high percentage. And so there's no way we can really plan, economically without really factoring that particular sector, and the policy also says that the majority of the MSMEs in Jamaica are micro. And so that also means that there will be certain challenges of size and other kinds of those kind of challenges of scale that may not be accessible or be able to be taken advantage of. And so I think it's important, certainly the work of the MSME division and the work of what all of us are doing to support small business, which again is the backbone of the economy, So I think that's also very important. So again,
Marcus, there's a question from the other presenter.
Okay, sure. The floor is open. Who wanted to ask the question? Manes, sure, go ahead, Manes.
Thank you, Marcus. For me, it's just a comment in terms of IP systems. I will speak in terms of Malawi. I think some of us, it's about the perception, the mindset of the government, and also the trust, because most of the private sector, for you to access maybe loans or funding or like the system for the IP services, it's not easy because of the perception of the private sector, of the perception of the government on the private sector. Because sometimes they think if you are an entrepreneur or if you are just from the private sector, you are just there to make money, but they forget about the bigger picture of you contributing to the country or to the communities. So sometimes it's also the policies, it is also, I think, the perception in terms of the government and the coordination between the government and the private sector. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that, Manes. Yes, I think that is important, and that's why I think that not all countries have a MSME division which focuses on that sector. So I'm quite pleased, that Jamaica has and that we're doing so much, because it does take a kind of changing in policy and perspective. On that topic, I mean, in your presentation, Manes, you mentioned, some of the challenges in terms of the perspective of women and youth in business, and you shared that that's part of the reason why your work focuses so much on seeking to empower women and youth. So could you speak a bit more about that, some of the challenges of being a youth and a female entrepreneur?
Yes, I think for the challenges, there are so many, as I mentioned. One should be the capital, of course, but also I think that the same perception that most of the young people here, they are looking at that picture of unemployment from the government, which is the public sector. So we, as the government, they make sure to use us as entrepreneurs, as a private sector, to make sure that from the primary school, from the secondary school and the universities, they should consider that on the curriculum to teach the young people at the young age about these issues, even about the IP issues. So we are pushing for the government also to include that in our systems, because if I'm young, I have that mindset. Mindset change is very important to start at the young age. But apart from that, I think that perception of, most of the young people, they would like to just become rich today.
Yeah.
They can't wait, they don't have patience. So sometimes to take them through the same process, step by step, it's also something, it's a challenge. Yeah. But for me, I would like, sometimes I encourage these young people that cannot be the bridge for them not to do anything, because you can do anything at every level, even if you are young. Yeah.
Right. Yes, we find sometimes too here that, some young persons don't want to get into farming, maybe they think it takes too long, right?
Of course. Let me expand on that one, because most of the entrepreneurs, yes, we are involved in the agri sector. So sometimes young people, they feel like in our country, we are still using the old model of farming, using a hoe. We don't have technologies like a tractor, so it's not attractive. So for someone very young to be very attracted to use technology, they don't have access to technology. So they don't want to use the old models, they want to use the technologies, because they are the ones that they feel that they want to make agriculture very appetizing. Yeah.
Yes. So similar issues, I would say, similar challenges, right? How to focus the productive energies of our young people.
Yeah.
Is I think a concern. So I mean, when we think of technology nowadays, which I know most young people are attracted to, probably they will be more inclined to be involved in technology-based businesses or jobs. That's where I think we also have challenges too, because what happens oftentimes is that when we go in terms of the technological age and going online and that kind of sphere, then you have to also be very sharp with your IP management, because of course, the World Wide Web is a worldwide market that has a lot of potential sales, a lot of potential infringements also. So I was
But
also
the policy involvement, because most of our policies, they were done maybe 20 years ago, and most of the policies, the young people are not involved on decision making. So it is very difficult because it goes with the policies. So if we are not involved, the people that we are hands-on, the people that we are involved in that sector, it is also difficult because someone can be just sitting in the office waiting, but also to implement those policies, because we have some policies that they were released maybe 10 years ago, but we are still not on action. They are just on paper. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to bring in Rachel, who spoke earlier about the online environment, right, Rachel? And again, I think that's a real issue. Whether you're established MSME or up and coming. And of course, most up and coming MSMEs nowadays, they want to go to the online market because it has the potential to offer more significant sales, but they are just unaware of all the pitfalls and really how to avoid them and to respond to them. So what would be, Rachel, maybe your, I don't know, 3 top tips, if you were to think of it in that way, that you would tell a young MSME who is going online to sell a product or a service for the first time? What would you advise them to really be mindful of before they go online?
Well, I think it's probably the same as it has always been, but it's just that there are more people online now, so there's more opportunities to buy.
Rachel, you're in and out. Could I suggest that you if you take off the video, it may be.
Yes, I would be delighted to turn the video off.
I'd love to hear all.
How's that? Is that a bit better?
Yes, it is. Please.
Right.
Go ahead. Thank you.
So it's the same as it's always been. Investing in a little bit of IP start is absolutely crucial, particularly when you put a product online. Now, I think when we're talking about investing in IP, I absolutely remember even a couple of £100 difficulty to find to register a trademark. But it is really worth it, because if you've got nothing to respond to infringements, it's very difficult. So I think you must have some IP, and then you must always have a look at what's out there. So be very mindful. And it's like Googling yourself a lot, but in different languages. And if you find fakes or infringements of your product, do something about it. And if you don't have registered IP, use copyright. Those would be my 3 tips.
Rachel?
Yep.
Okay, yes, I think we lost you. You're in and out a bit. But we can try. Next time I ask you a question, I saw you were trying some headphones. Maybe that could work. I don't know if that microphone might be closer to get you. So, right, I'm not sure if everyone got those 3 tips quite clearly, because of the in and out. But I'm going to ask Rachel to probably just repeat it, once she has that headset on. I'm hoping it will be clearer for the audience.
Yeah, put a headset on. Is that any better?
Sounds nice and clear now, yes.
Okay, so my 3 hot tips, sorry about that. My 3 hot tips are: register your IP, keep your eyes and ears out for infringements, and when you find them, do something about it. And if you don't have any registered IP, use copyright.
Right. I did recall that you had mentioned that oftentimes, most times you said when you write to a website host and you show the IP of your client, that oftentimes, most times they will put it down, and that will be the end of that, right?
That's correct. We use IP to prove originality, and where possible, we use registered IP, but we do sometimes use copyright, and there's quite a lot you can do with copyright. But because the platforms and the website hosts and the domain hosts know that we will only complain about infringers when there is a problem, they tend to take the links down and they stay down.
Right. So that's a really cost-effective way, I would say, to be able to get something that's infringing your IP rights taken down off of, websites, just by virtue of being able to show them that you are so registered IP, right? Your trademark or your design is registered, And I'm presuming, Rachel, that it doesn't matter where it's registered around the world. They only want to know it's registered somewhere, and that they will accept that and act accordingly, right?
Well, because because IP is territorial, there are some sites where any IP that you have that is registered will work. So thankfully, Alibaba and AliExpress in China, where we see a lot of counterfeits and trademark infringements, will accept trademarks which are registered anywhere in the world.
Right.
But that's not always the case. So some of the Korean platforms, for example, always want Korean registered trademarks. But mostly people will accept IP which is registered in the territory in question. And if by any chance you don't have IP in the territory where there's an infringement, then what happens sometimes is that your IP will protect you in the territory where it can, and sellers in that territory wouldn't see the infringing products for sale. So it's called geo-blocking. But in the territories where you don't have IP, the infringing products would still be for sale.
Oh, I see. Okay. Interesting. Right. Okay. I think that's also, good to know, because, sometimes persons aren't aware of just how useful an IP registration is, So that's I think very useful to also be clear, And of course, your software that you use to monitor, right, is automatic. And I think I asked you previously, it's proprietary. you had told me, right? So
yes, that's right. It's proprietary software and it monitors the marketplaces, the e-commerce marketplaces automatically. We point it at a product and off it goes, and it comes back and says, these are all the links we found. And we say, well, these ones are genuine and these ones are not. And then we talk to the brand and the brand says, I don't like any of those, please remove them.
right. Okay. Saving time, saving money, of course, in legal fees, litigation, and such.
And be very quick, which is helpful because I know what it's like to have fakes of your product and you feel like somebody has stabbed you in the heart. It's a horrible, horrible thing. And
Yes.
you just, the fact that somebody has had the audacity to rip you off, you just want those links offline as soon as possible.
Right. I was very pleased to see you had some of the Jamaica Black Castor Oil data there. I was sharing with you, of course, some of those challenges that we face here. So I think it's a very, very useful, piece of software there to be able to monitor globally, right? What's happening on the World Wide Web.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really important. Okay, I'm gonna go to the floor. So, Dr. Bookman, your hand is up. I believe you want to ask a question of any of our panelists. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you again for hosting this, and I've definitely sat here and learned a lot from every panelist who spoke today. So thank you very much to Jaipo and the whole team. I really, really connected with what Mr. Shah had to say, because as a small business owner myself, and even just looking at the table, I know squarely now that I am a micro business, but I exist in the creative industries. A lot of my work is the creative industries. I do publishing of books, but I also dabble in general in many aspects of the general, the general creative industries. So I still am questioning myself as to how productive is my business in the eyes of a lender. I don't know if if books are deemed essential to if they are the knowledge that is passed on through literature, does it add or take away value in the eyes of lenders? Where does that fall, and what parameters would they use to judge whether my business is productive or not?
Can I jump in on that, Marcus?
Sure, please do.
And Dr. Bookman, that's a very good question, and let me just take you through how you look at your business. First of all, I hope you don't remain micro and that your business will expand and you will generate sales above $15 million so that you can move to a medium-sized small enterprise. And hopefully you may be able to land a big contract overseas to produce more books and become a medium-sized enterprise. But you raise the issue about whether or not your enterprise is productive and how do you see it productive. I just need some more information from you. You do books. What kind of books do you do? Is it fiction books? Are these textbooks? What kind of books do you do currently? I just use the example of a book for now.
Yes.
And the creative content that you put in that. What kind of books you produce at the moment?
We do multi-genre books, so we're not partial to any particular genre. We do have one imprint that's a children's book imprint.
Right. So take for example, you do a children's book now, and what's the focus of the child's of that book?
Well, that book has a well-being focus. It's particularly
on health, child's health.
Yeah, mental health. The mental health and development of the child. Yes.
All right. So, for example, and I'm just taking you through. Say during Child's Month, right? which will come up later on this year. You want to highlight the work that you're doing for mental health in children. And I think that Child's Month is part of the United Nations. It's on the United Nations calendar if you look into UNESCO and UNICEF. Go back to those. I think it's one of those two, right?
Yes.
Say, for example, you contact the UNICEF, if it is UNICEF, and you say to them that, listen, during Child's Month, I'm from Jamaica, I have this creative content. This is a book that focuses on child's health and well-being. And I want to highlight it as a major topic in Jamaica. They may say, and sometimes you may have to look at partnerships for this, right?
Yes.
They may say, you know what, send me the content that you have. I'm pretty sure that you'd have registered the creative content that you have, I hope, based on what Rachel said to you earlier. And suppose they want to, and you know, UNICEF is in 154 countries, and particularly in the Commonwealth, right?
Yes.
And suppose that they want to, because of the creative content and the value that they see, it may add to addressing the issue of mental health and well-being. They want to use your book to promote mental health as a theme in Child's Month.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see the kind of value you're talking about and the expansion that I'm referring to.
Yes, actually, we're doing something very similar right now. We actually
well,
have
there you go. There you go. So when I speak about value addition,
mm-hmm.
I'm talking about that type of value. And probably when you get into this collaborative arrangement with UNICEF or whoever that partnership may be,
mm-hmm.
they may want you to look at some other things, child-related, mental health related, but looking at something else other than the one that you have in your book there.
Right.
You see where I'm going in terms of the value addition that I'm talking about? And
yes.
The focus and the expansion. So what I've just said to you, focus on 3 issues that confront MSMEs. How do you scale?
Mm-hmm.
Very important. How do you move from a micro to a small to a medium-sized enterprise?
Mm-hmm.
And I just showed you some kind of pathway to that,
mm-hmm.
to assist you to scale.
Yes.
The other thing that I want you to focus on, how do I get you to diversify? Because you have a book there, you know, on mental health and well-being. But then you can move into diversified products. You can move into a CD that speaks to it rather than a physical book. You can go to some kind of skit. You can go to Donna Hope's Dancehall Archive and Research Institute to look at how you can make some kind of creative dance out of it to demonstrate what you're showing about mental health and well-being. I wonder if you see the possibilities that I'm trying to tell you and the value that you can.
So yes, I do, and we're actually a few steps ahead of that. So we have proposals ready. What I'm getting at is, I mean, what you're saying to me is giving me more confidence to think that if I was to take this proposal to Exim Bank or whatever, and say we want, because it's access to capital to make these dreams a reality now.
Right.
So I want to know if I realistically have a chance of accessing capital in the environment that exists now.
You have a very good chance of accessing affordable capital from Exim if you can come with a contract from UNICEF or whoever your partners are. And you just mentioned that you're way ahead of the curve there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a contract, a bankable contract, they will lend you money against that.
Okay. Okay.
It's like a receivable you have there, you know, you have a contract that you're going to supply 400 books or 500 books. You see where I'm going?
Yes, yes, yes.
And then they monetize what this value is and lend you against that. They may lend you 90% of that amount or 80% of that amount, depending on the risk, how they rate the risk.
Right, right. Okay.
But you're in a productive enterprise.
Okay.
People like you would like to lend money too.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. I feel much clearer now.
Yes.
Respect.
Yes, thank you for that question, Dr. Bookman. I think several persons probably would want to know that as well, you know. So, I mean, yeah, it sounds to me like from Mr. Shaw is saying that if it's strictly buy and sell, no value added at all, you know, then it would not be worth. But if it's something that is your original work, which I guess you're taking it from scratch to a finished product, that's clearly value added, you know.
Right. And currently, Marcus, if he's only producing 10,000 books and he gets this contract that will scale him up to 400 or 40,000 books, he's going to employ more people.
Right.
He's going to generate more foreign exchange because he's exporting his intellectual content, right?
Right, right.
He's going to add to the MSME sales from 14% to maybe 14.2%. You see where I'm going? And by virtue of that, he's adding to the gross domestic product. He's a valuable MSME.
Okay, okay, right. I think that's important because so many times MSMEs don't feel valued, you know, or again, don't know how to value themselves, right?
Yes, and based on what I just outlined to him, we can measure his input just based on the product he's producing and possible contracts that he may forge with partners.
Right. Yeah, so it says some of the most successful businesses globally are SMEs, you know.
Yes.
And in the world of technology, no, you don't necessarily need to have a big staff, big infrastructure, you know, to be successful SME. You know? So thanks for that, Dr. Bookman, and thanks, Mr. Shaw. All right, any more questions then? I mean, again, the floor is open for comments, questions for our panelists. We have, again, a range of expertise here in terms of perspectives from government, from private sector, from Jamaica, and from international as well. So please take the opportunity if you want to ask any questions, or those who have shared and who have, of course, been down the road as well too. So the floor is still open. We probably will be wrapping up shortly. So maybe I can ask a few more questions while we give more time to any of our audience members. Let me ask you, Samara, in terms of the work of the JMEA, right? And looking at the needs of the sector, I know that you've been working quite closely with the MSME division, which has NPIC, Mr. Shaw, right? NPIC National, Mr. Shaw, National, I remember the
National Policy Implementation Committee.
Right, National Policy Implementation Committee, NPIC, which has the different sectors which are coordinating for SMEs, both from private sector, public sector. So it's a public-private partnership. I don't know, somewhere from the JMEA's perspective, you know, what do you see could be strengthened in terms of the public-private partnership in that area, you know, apart from what you mentioned earlier, any particular, you know, key points that you think could additionally be looked at to strengthen just your members and their journey to market?
I think, Marcus, just to say that as it relates to the collaboration that we're having, I mean, at the end of the day, it's good to have these sort of collaboration because we get a sense from our members what it is that is lacking, what is needed to enable them to get to market. So I think that we have to focus now on ensuring that, for example, something that jumped out at me in the presentation by Rachel was a software that she mentioned that, you know, you can monitor online where there are infringements. So I think that in addition to us pushing the IP awareness and having members of our association or wider MSMEs coming on board as it relates to IPRs, these are some of the things that we need to look at more closely. Monitoring, because when you do have a micro entity and that micro entity now register an IP, does that micro entity have the capacity to actually do the monitoring of the supply chains or the online monitoring that is needed as it relates to infringement? So I think what we have to do is that we have to look at best practices, what's happening in other parts of the world as it relates to assisting micro entities even more as it relates to enforcing their rights when they do have the IP rights. And I think that's something that we have to look at going forward. So you collateralize your IP assets. You've registered the IP. We have acceded to Madrid, and we have people now registering more trademarks than before. But what about the monitoring element? I think it's important that we do work together as the private sector and the government to see where the gaps exist as it relates to monitoring different markets, and to ensure that the rights that we have protected, that or different MISMEs can actually seek recourse as it relates to the law. And we have to ensure that support is there. And yeah, so I think that is where we need to look to going forward as well.
Okay, so some practical steps, as I say, beyond or after registration that can be really useful to help to protect the brands and the IP value. Okay, that sounds good. I know that we will continue to be doing some work or some discussions along those lines. I mean, monitoring is quite expensive. You know, when you hear the Coffee Industry Board or JACRA talking about the costs to monitor Blue Mountain coffee, it's just enormous. You know. And so it would really be very difficult for the average SME to be able to do that. So yes, I think certainly having a JME and such organization which can help to provide such benefits for our group can probably make it easier to have that kind of access rather than just individually, but maybe through that collective representation. So, I think it should be useful to see what's available and possible. You know, certainly we can talk with Rachel in the very near future.
That would be good.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Samara. Okay, so as we wrap up, any final questions or thoughts from any of our panelists? Maybe I can invite our panelists to give any final, again, perspectives that they want to share. This is, of course, our World IP Day webinar, and you know, we have a week of activities. But this day today is, of course, very important. It's been celebrated now globally as we speak. And so I'm going to invite our panelists just to give any final thoughts or comments, tips.
Right.
Yes.
Marcus, if I may just go ahead. There is another major initiative that the ministry has just launched. It's a pilot project. We are actually about 7 months in this pilot project. It has to do with MSMEs access to government public procurement contracts. Yeah? And I just want to say something about this. The government has set aside 20% of their contract spend per fiscal year, specifically for MSMEs to access with very no strenuous effort. Once they comply with their taxes and the regular compliance arrangement, they can access government contracts that are specifically dedicated for MSMEs. So in 2019, the government has promulgated 2 ministerial orders. One is that they have set aside this 20% of government spend for MSMEs to access in all goods and service categories. And this means that they have lowered the requirements. They have made the documentation more simpler for MSMEs to bid for government contracts. We have started this pilot project with 7 ministries, departments, and agencies to test how this is working out before we do a full rollout of the government procurement guideline opportunity for MSMEs. And we have been advertising a number of contracts, specifically targeting MSMEs. And what I want to draw my colleagues' attention to is the procurement page on a Saturday and in the Observer, where these procurement opportunities come out, where they target specifically MSMEs to apply for these contractual arrangements. So I just want to make that very clear and declare that we want the MSMEs to participate in public procurement. I know that a lot of them are saying that, you know, they are not fully included in the arrangement. We want them to be included in the arrangement, and so government has gone ahead and passed these ministerial orders for them to benefit. And we want them to benefit from these arrangements. So I really want to sensitize and make it and raise awareness about this, and for MSMEs to look out for these opportunities and capitalize on them.
Great, Mr. Shaw. I think that's a very important move by the government as well. You know, I mean, you didn't state the value. I'm not sure if you know the value, but I mean, we know that it's a significant value in terms of the procurement spend by GOJ. And so 20% of that would, I know, be a significant percentage as well.
It's about $6 billion. It's about $6 billion.
What? That's the 20%?
The 20%. The 20%.
All right, $6 billion Jamaican dollars, right? So just to follow up on that, Joshua, I mean, you know, even in terms of going through this process ourselves for IP Week and such, when you have this facility, right? Normally, we know you have to be on the national contracts list and such, and I know that the ministry is also trying to get more MSMEs formalized in the formal sector.
Precisely, right? Because they have to be somewhat formalized to benefit from these. And when I say formalized, you have to have a registered business. You have to comply with certain statutory arrangements. You know, you have to be tax paying, you know, because they are not going to want to give contracts to an MSME that is still operating under the ground, for which they have no knowledge nor no information about. It's not something that the government would want to support. So government wants it to formalize, register your business. And once you register your business, you're automatically connected to NHG, HART, and NIS. It's an automatic connection.
Right.
And we can know when you are doing business the moment you register. Because some people register and they don't do any business, they don't operationalize their business until 24 months' time. You know what I mean? And some register and start right away. And we know these, we can track these because we get that registration information from COJ, Companies Office of Jamaica. And then we have our contacts at TAJ to track this business of these 200 businesses that register this month. And I give it, and they will and COJ would say, these are the 200 names. And I say to my guy at TOJ, at tax administration, of these 200 people, how many of them start to pay tax? It means they start to do business. So it's easy to track. So we just want them to become formal, just to register and participate in the thing. Because what we have done, we have simplified the procurement arrangement significantly to incentivize MSME participation in procurement.
Okay, are those published like on the?
Well, yes, the ministerial order is a big thing. It was done in December 2019. It was in the press. It was in the government JIS 5-minute feature that they have on radio and all of these things. I have been saying it. I've been trying to say it in every forum that I get the opportunity to say it, such as this one. You know. So and at NPIC, of course, and everywhere else that I participate, I don't leave the program without saying this. I would not leave this program without talking about it, because it is so important for MSMEs to know this.
Right, right. I know that you also have a hub. So I'd like you just to say, where is the hub? Where can the MSME who wants to find out information about what other opportunities provided by government for the
Right.
sector?
You can go on our website and you can contact our MSME office. Me personally, if you wish, Oral Shaw at 968-1116, 968-116, right? That's the Minister of Industry and Commerce. That's your direct number there. And you can get me or call any other lines at the Ministry of Industry and Commerce and ask if we transfer to my extension 3730, and we can talk about this.
And you have an online hub as well on the website, no?
Yes,
like a platform.
yes, that speaks to that as well.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Oral, for that. And thanks for joining us. And thanks for sharing all that wealth of information about the wealth of opportunities available. Thanks for that. All right. I'm going to invite then Manes. Are you still with us? Manes, you want to say any final words of encouragement or just to share again any final advice for our listeners?
Hello. Thank you so much, Marcus, and thank you so much for everyone. I think for me, for Malawi government, the access to the policy, they should be harmonized. It is very important for us to harmonize our policies, because sometimes we look at the conjunction that the other part of the policy is speaking the other things, they are not harmonized. So it's important our policies to be harmonized. But also our government should come up with youth and women entrepreneurship strategies to guide the youth in IP and other sectors like the primary production, the processing, and also the markets. Because most of these, they lead up to the markets and the information. So I'm happy to mention to you that there are some of the ministries, they are reform areas, like Ministry of Youth and Ministry of Agriculture in collaboration with Ministry of Trade and Industry. They are collaborating at least to come up with those strategies to guide the young people, since our population is almost 70% with young people. So it's very important for us. It can help us a lot. And also, I think just to mention that, I think it's very important to start it early when you are young, because you can go now at the height of your strength, because you're still young and your mind is still fresh and you are still energetic. It's very important to start it early. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manes. Thanks for those words. I think it's important too, that there be a kind of collaborative, what's the word? A collaborative approach to policy and implementation of strategies and so forth. So yes, I agree with you there. Thanks for that comment. I'm going to invite Samara. Did you have anything else to add? Finally?
No, just finally, Marcus, just to say congratulations again to Jaipo for the work that you're doing. I think we're at a good place and we are on the right track as it relates to a country recognizing and giving due attention to intellectual property rights. And it's so good that the government and the private sector is actually working together in this area as it relates to setting the right stage or providing an enabling environment. I must say that we are very happy that we are almost at the end of the tunnel. The light is at the end of the tunnel as it relates to accession to Madrid, because we think that this is key as it relates to getting more MSMEs, MSMEs registering their trademark. And I think the work that the MIIC MSME policy unit is actually doing as it relates to ensuring that the issue of access to finance and collateral and monetizing your IP asset, that work is underway in that area as well. So I think that we are on the right track as a country, and we should continue to collaborate more as it relates to raising awareness. Of course, at the JMEA, we have over 400 members, almost 320 MISMEs a part of our association, but there are also those MISMEs that are not within the JMEA. As Oral said, there's a large informal sector that we also need to ensure that when we're tapping into we're relaying the knowledge that these MISMEs are also aware and brought on board as it relates to the importance of IP to their businesses and getting them formalized. So again, congratulations to JIPO, all the best for IP Week celebration. I am so excited about the theme and the focus on micro, small, and medium enterprises. And it's important that we do all that we can as a country to ensure that there's growth in this area as we continue to take our ideas to market. So thanks again for the invitation. The JME was happy to be here this morning and presenting our perspective. Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks to Samara. We appreciate the JME's input always. And as I said, the public-private partnership is critical in this area. So thanks again for your willingness and for your support going forward.
And what a way to end it in, Marcus.
Yes, I was going to invite Rachel.
With that profound statement from Samara.
Yes. I think she's well placed. She's well placed to work with us, to activate some of these things. And so, again, looking forward to working with JME and, of course, with the MSME division to accomplish one of these objectives. Okay, so Rachel, any final words from you that you want to share with us?
Just to say, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I wish you all the best. It's been an absolute pleasure to be involved. And it was also totally fascinating and inspiring to hear from Maness about younger people learning about IP, because that's definitely one of the problems we have in Europe. We don't and we aren't encouraging awareness of intellectual property soon enough in schools. And I think it's really important that if we could teach our young people to appreciate what intellectual property is, they would understand it not just in not buying fakes and rip-offs when they're shopping online with their pocket money, but as they build businesses, as they go forward, it would help them and the economy. So thank you very much. Good luck with the rest of the week. It has been an absolute pleasure to celebrate World IP Day with you.
Okay, thank you so much, Rachel. And please continue to do your good work as well. And I say we probably will be contacting you, in the near future just to see what kind of other opportunities we can, collaborate on. So please listen on for that.
Please do. Please do. I'd love to help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. All right, so that's been our presentation. What I'm going to ask now is that we do have a little video presentation that we're going to share just to show you some more information about our JIPO IP Essay Competition 2021. So, Mr. Hope, maybe you could just line up that for us to share that, that presentation on the IP Essay Competition. Again, our focus on JIPO is to try to engage with the youth. And so we are going to continue to do so. This competition focusing on the primary, secondary, and tertiary school students and having them write an essay that speaks to the importance of IP for MSMEs. So we are also, of course, working with that. And we're going to also have a launch of our poll, our poll as well shortly after. So please stay with us.
This competition has allowed me to know and understand intellectual property rights and how it can benefit both our country, Jamaica, and my
Intellectual Property Office Essay Competition 2020 has exposed me to intellectual property rights and why they are important to small and developing states in the 21st century. Intellectual property rights cover the areas of copyrights, trademarks, patents, and industrial designs, and the protection of these rights may lead to economic growth, creation of new industries, and enhance the quality of life, which will prove beneficial to small island developing states. Organizations such as the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office in Jamaica contributes to national economic growth and development through proper administration, protection, and promotion of intellectual property rights.
This essay taught me the importance of protecting one's innovation and the agency responsible to carry out such important procedures.
I learned about copyright and how it is important to get your ideas registered before you do anything with them, and that you shouldn't use other people's ideas without asking their permission.
Definitely an eye-opening experience. During the period of research and analysis, I learned so much about my country and other small island developing states, as well as the challenges we all face. It was great to read about and conceptualize ways in which IPOs can be used to boost island economies, especially through the commercialization of culture. Again, thank you to the JIPO for considering my work.
It has shown me the benefits to myself and to my country here in the 21st century. It has shown me where I can protect my business, my plans, my creative ideas, and possibly my future innovations. So I just want to say thank you for this opportunity.
This competition has aided in the development of my vocabulary, literary, and referencing skills. It has provided a plethora of information that can be used to protect intellectual property rights, and this information can be shared with the young innovative minds that I associate with. I enjoyed participating in this competition.
Mention how grateful I am for this life-changing experience. I have learned so much about intellectual property rights. Content such as patents, copyright, trademarks are so very important to countries such as Jamaica, which are small island developing states. The economical impacts it has, the socio-cultural impacts that it has.
Doing this essay and being a part of this competition is particularly beneficial to me, as I'm a creator myself and I'm now informed of the many ways in which I can protect and benefit from my craft. I'd also like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to JIPO for hosting this essay competition on a yearly basis and allowing Jamaican citizens the opportunity to express and learn more about the importance of intellectual property rights.
Right. Thank you very much for that. Just to show you again how our young people are engaged. So this year, again, we're having our competition just launched this morning. And so the theme this year, why are intellectual property rights important to micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises? So it's open to students from primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions across Jamaica. The deadline for submission of essays is September 30, 2021. It should be emailed to copyright@jipo.gov.jm. That's copyright@jipo.gov.jm. Of course, details are available on our website, www.jipo.gov.jm. Persons are also free to call us at 876-946-1300. So that's really it for us. Thank you again for staying with us, all our panelists, our audience members. I want to thank, of course, our sponsors for this, or our partners for this event today, the World IP Organization, WIPO. I thank particularly, again, DG Darren Tang and his team, as well as Ms. Carol Simpson from the Caribbean section of WIPO for all their help in putting together this program for today. I want to also thank the EU IPO and their executive director, Mr. Archambault, and his representative who spoke this morning, Mr. DeCarlo. And I thank, of course, our Minister Aldi Shaw and Minister of State, Dr. Norman Dunn, for speaking in the opening ceremony this morning. And of course, we also want to thank our regional partners who are with us from our IP offices in the region as well. Of course, our speakers and presenters and audience, as I said, for this webinar this afternoon. So please join us again. Tomorrow, we'll be having a week of activities again on our website, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Please check it out. We were having tomorrow Designs Day. Designs Day will focus on our new designs law that's coming into play shortly.
Can I ask you this now?
You're a little loud. I want to ask Ms. Wright. Ms. Wright, can you mute that for him, please? Thank you. Right, so tomorrow we have Designs Day. Designs Day will start at 10 a.m. To 12 tomorrow. We'll be focusing on our new designs law, which is coming into operation later on this year, and the Hague Agreement, which will provide for international registration of designs through Jamaica to the world through this Hague Agreement administered by WIPO. So a very MSME-focused treaty as well, the Hague Agreement, which will help again for access for MSMEs to international markets. So that will be from 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Jamaica time, to 12 noon. We'll be hearing from speakers, including WIPO representatives talking about the Hague Agreement, Ms. Adrienne Thompson talking on behalf of JIPO, as well as Ms. Lacey Ann Bartley, a well-known Jamaican MSME. And we will also, of course, be having a very interactive discussion about the future of design and how we can assist you in your commercial endeavors. So that's tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Please join us. The links are on our platform, on our website, etc. You can click and register and join us tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we have Patents Day. Patents will be starting at 10 a.m. also. And we'll be having a speaker, Dr. George Bayura Guba from Uganda, talking about, again, his experiences as a scientific researcher in patents, primary agricultural-based patents. He'll be talking about on Wednesday. We're joined also by Dr. Carr from the UE Technology Innovation and Support Center, Professor Daniel Kaur of UE as well, and of course, Dr. Patricia Yap, a local inventor and patent proprietor. And then Thursday, we have our IP enforcement webinar. On Thursday, we'll be talking about how to enforce your IP rights, particularly across borders. So we'll be talking with the local police, the IP arm of the police force. We'll be having representatives from the US Embassy, as well as, of course, from JIPO, from Jamaica Customs. And we will be looking at the issues concerning how to enforce your rights in terms of infringing goods coming into or leaving our ports. And then Thursday afternoon, we have a virtual shopping with selected SMEs, MSMEs, who will be here with us to highlight again their products, those who have used our IP system, talking about how IP has helped them to advance and grow their businesses. And then on Friday, as we discussed somewhat this morning, we'll be focusing on the JIPO project on how to increase access to finance for MSMEs who are IP-based. And we'll be having with us Ms. Melanie Williams from the Bank of Jamaica, Ms. Rachel Cameron, Ms. Rochelle Cameron from the PSOJ, Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, as well as we'll be having our consultants who are working on this project with us to help to move the ecosystem further in terms of increasing the IP collateralization, which is important, of course, to move and increase access to finance for MSMEs. And then we will finish on Sunday, May 2nd, with our special supplement in the newspaper, which will focus on different aspects of the week, as well as photographs and articles by our stakeholders. So please join us for a week of activities. Again, follow us on social media, JIPO Online on Twitter, JIPO Online, Facebook and Instagram, hashtags World IP Day and JIPO IP Week. Please also complete the poll. Has the poll been done, Mr. Hope? Right, so the poll is up now. Please complete the poll in a few minutes remaining. And I thank again our JIPO Advisory Board Chairman, Ms. Debbie Salmon, for joining us this morning as well. I thank other board members of JIPO Advisory Board who were here with us as well this morning. I thank the entire IP Week Planning Committee and staff and team for all the hard work behind the scenes. And I thank, of course, Ms. Lily Claire Bellamy, Executive Director of JIPO, Ms. Chantal English, for Copyright and Related Rights Manager. All right, so the poll is up. Please take a few minutes to complete the poll. There's only a few questions if you haven't done so as yet. And again, thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you for the rest of this week's activities. All right, so that's it for us here at JIPO. Happy World IP Day, everyone. Look forward to an engaging IP week with you and to seeing you as well using our IP system to advance your own commercial interests. Thanks, everyone, and have a good afternoon. Bye, Manis. Thanks again. Nice meeting you. I'm going to also be in touch with you afterwards. Thanks. Okay, bye. All right, Mr. Shaw, thanks again, Mr. Shaw. A lot of work to be done. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, Marcus.
Thanks, Samara. Thanks, Rachel.